My entitled psycho mother has been stealing money from my bank account for far too long, as even into adulthood she's taking money out that I need not only for college but also for my car, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. To start things out, I'm a 19-year-old male, and a couple of years ago I received about $7,000 from my grandmother. I was looking to start college soon and she wanted to put me in the right direction. I didn't work during high school because my parents wanted me to focus on school, so because of this I never had access to my personal bank accounts. When I had enough cash and checks that I wanted to deposit, my mom would just deposit it into a joint savings account that she said belonged to me. Fast forward to a year later and I'm ready to open a checking account to pay for my own things. My mom comes with me and says to the bank employee, "Well, let's just keep the joint savings account as it is." The employee agrees with this, and finally I have my own checking account. Well, I then check the savings account and I only have $1,000 in it. My mom would often tell me that she needed to dip into it a little bit and that she would also pay me back, so I would always let her, but I had no idea it was this low. Well, a few months later, my beloved 1999 Mercury Grand Marquis broke down for the last time, and my mom's side of the family was very pushy about the idea of getting a new car. I was not, but I finally caved when I was told I wouldn't have to pay the full monthly payments, which came out to be around $900 a month. My grandmother on my dad's side and my dad gave me another generous sum of about $7,500 to get me started, and my grandma and grandpa on my mom's side put around $3,000 down on the car. Well, this month I was informed by my grandma and my pops that the money from my grandmother and dad had run out, and I would need to start paying some again. I've been very religiously seeking for a job, combing through all sorts of boards daily, and getting plenty of interviews. However, because I didn't really work in high school, I found no luck. I've been door dashing, but aside from that, I have no source of income. My refund from college financial aid came back recently to the tune of about $2,000. I want to treat the love of my life to a lovely Valentine's Day, so I set some money aside for daily use and had planned to transfer some more for my Valentine's Day plans. I knew that I would need a large amount because of my plans, but I didn't see it as exorbitant. I had to ask my mom for permission to use any of the money because she immediately put an embargo on my usage of my own refund, saying it needed to be towards the car. Well, I transferred $200 out for early shopping and going on dates before Valentine's Day. Well, I then checked my banking a few days ago and all but $50 was gone from the account. I called and asked, and my mom told me that I needed to listen to her, that her word was final, and that I could not be trusted with my own money. She then blew up at me for moving to live with my dad, which is a long story in and of itself, and implied that I need to pay all $900 per month. So right now, I'm really considering going to a different bank because this is some crazy behavior. And at this point, I'm honestly at a loss and I don't know what to do. Okay, there are so many things wrong with this, it's not even funny. First off, your mom is sketchy as can be. I'm honestly so shocked that you agreed to have a shared savings account with this lady, especially with the track record she has. She's literally stolen from you in the past, and you're just like, oh, it's not gonna be bad, like that's not gonna happen again, right? But it's like, dude, you're completely wrong. This is like handing your car keys to a thief and being like, oh, don't steal it, don't take my car for joyrides, because guess what, that car is gonna go on a joyride. Also, why in the world did you buy a new car, dude? That is not a good idea. Your mom drained your bank account and is now basically like, well, I guess you just have to pay for everything now. And it's like, dude, I had money set aside. What are you doing? That is seriously so stupid and like honestly obnoxious. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would tell the entire family that my mom is stealing my money. Because truly, I don't think anything you say is going to change what she says or thinks. But I will say the people giving you money will probably be like, oh wow, we're not going to give any money to that account again. And then I would immediately set up a new account. Like I'm talking about taking all of my money out of my checking account, moving all of that money to another bank, and just starting over. Like at this point, that's basically what you need to do. Because dude, this is so obnoxious. This is honestly so unfair for you. So yeah, I would do that immediately and hopefully this goes over well because your mom's been taking advantage of you and you don't deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Tonight, I had the worst experience ever as a server at the restaurant I work at, as things just kept getting worse and worse as the night went on. And I'm seriously hoping I never have a night like this ever again because this was a nightmare. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a little while ago, so I'm not as mad anymore, but honestly, if I think about it too much, I get really pissed off. On a busy Friday at about 4:00 p.m., I walk in and immediately get sat a 16 top that I have to share with another server. Now, this is not a great experience, but the other server happens to be my friend and roommate, so so at least we're cool about it. The table takes their sweet time sitting down and finding seats. And by the way, we really need people to stay in their seats to get started for each seat numbers, as well for splitting the bill as there's only 2 of us serving them, meaning that we're taking care of 8 people each. And sure, it's a bit complicated, but it's not crazy. And they didn't leave the best tips, like maybe 15% on my half, but it's like, oh well, bad start to the night, but I can go on. I then proceed to get another party, a 12 top, all to myself. And this is great, they're friendly and pretty easy. I should also state that while I take parties, I'm also taking smaller tables as well, but they hadn't really given me any issues up until that point. It's time to check out the 12 top, and they split it 2 ways, with a small family of 3 on one and the rest of the 9 adults on the other. While I'm dropping the checks and saying thank you and have a good night, I can see a cash tip on the table from the guy paying for the majority. I believe their bill was roughly $200, and I saw what I believe to be at least $40, so I thought to myself, okay, great. Well, I come back to the table after they leave, and the tip is gone and there's 0 on the check. I then went to a manager to check the cameras to make sure it wasn't stolen, but apparently this guy sneakily took it back while they were leaving, and it's like, my god, I hate this. Don't pay for 9 people if you can't tip for 9. It's even worse knowing that it was to look good in front of them. The family of 3 tips like $10 on 50, so I can't be mad at them, but $10 on 250 total is just never good. So as you can imagine, at this point, I'm in a pretty bad mood. I promise it doesn't show towards my tables, but I am really not happy on the inside. And as I'm feeling that, guess what? Another party comes in, and now I'm just out of it. They were actually fine, but I truly felt like the world was ending. The straw that really broke the camel's back, though, was a simple 2 top, the last table of the night. A man and a woman are sat in my section, and I greet them like normal. He gets a glass of water, and she gets hot tea. Now, this is important. We serve our hot tea in a small cup with hot water and the tea bag, and the extra hot water is in a small metal teapot. I take the order, but she's not eating, except that she brought in her own Chipotle. Now, technically, it's not allowed, but I'm just so over the night at this point, so I just don't say anything. They proceed pretty normally until the very end. When they're about to close out, she starts yelling at me for not asking her if she needed more hot water. Now, I try to explain that I typically don't think to ask as I cannot see into the teapots, but at that point, everything slowly starts to devolve. But if anything, I'm a problem solver, as I'm sure most servers try to be. So I give her 2 tea bags just so she can take them home with her. We usually charge for each tea bag, so she's basically getting 3 for 1. But despite my good gesture, she is still pissed off, yelling at me and claiming that I talk to him more, and it's like, yeah, he's the one that actually ordered food. Of course I'm gonna talk to him more, but then it gets worse from there. She claims that I'm treating them differently because of the color of their skin, and my god, I'm so over it. They both just so happen to be black, and I promise you, lady, I just want to go home now. I have no agenda. The only saving grace is that the guy was super apologetic for her behavior and left me a tip of about $20 on their bill that was probably only $25. He also got her out of there pretty quickly. Well, as soon as they turned the corner to leave, I'm crying. I have another table right beside where they were, and they saw and basically heard everything. And they comforted me, even though it was really kind of embarrassing. They were really uncomfortable with the whole situation, as they also had a baby there. But thankfully, they were really sweet about all of it. I really try not to bring race into this, but this couple that comforted me was black as well. They simply made me feel better because even if it wasn't true, it does not feel good to be implied that I'm judging someone based on their skin color while you're just trying to do your job. But I will say I learned a couple of lessons that night. For one, ask if people need more hot water, I guess, because they can't speak for themselves. Secondly, ask for a manager sooner. I mean, I shouldn't have to be yelled at all. And third, be a jerk about outside food. I'm so pissed off I stood there getting yelled at while she got away with so much. And honestly, I hope I don't have to deal with a night like this ever again because this was pretty awful. Okay, honestly, this is one of those nights where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna learn a lot from this, and I'm gonna be much more on guard the next time someone like that comes in. Because seriously, you let her get away with so much stuff. You let her eat outside food, you dealt with her yelling at you, and you even tried to make it right by like giving out 2 extra tea bags. But instead of being grateful, this lady turned it on you and accused you of stuff that you were absolutely not doing. Like, I would have been so pissed off, and I probably would be very upset as well, because those are unfounded accusations, bro. You can't just say that to people. So yeah, I've been there, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I definitely know what it's like to have customers treat you like crap. It is never a good experience, but hopefully you can get through this. An entitled jerk parks his stupid car on my lawn while going to the pub, but after giving him a solid chance to move his car, I decided to get some revenge by leaving a reminder on his car that this is not the way you treat someone else's property. Here's what happened. I live opposite a pub, and they have a popular live music evening on Mondays, and it's always hard to park around here when that happens. I came out to walk over and listen to the music yesterday, and someone has clearly found it so hard to park that they had parked on my lawn itself. Yeah, they had literally driven up over the curb and nestled their piece of crap car between my flower pots and parked on the manicured grass. I went into the pub to ask whoever it was to move it, and I saw one of the musicians looking shifty, but he didn't own up to it or even move his car. So I said to myself, okay, fine. I then went into the house and I got a pen, some post-it notes, some extra sticky duct tape, and a bright red cheap extra stayed lipstick. I then wrote, "Do not park here" in bright lipstick on every single window, including the little side ones at the back. Then I wrote "no parking" on 4 or 5 of the post-it notes, and I stuck them to the front and back windscreens with a ludicrous amount of duct tape, about 2 feet per post-it. I knew full well that whoever had parked there was probably watching me through the pub window, and I hope they also enjoyed their drive of shame home, scraping the duct tape glue off the glass and working out the rock-hard set of lipstick. I went to bed after that, but in the morning, guess what? The car was gone. And this afternoon, I dug a new wooden post into the gap they had driven in, so it literally cannot happen again. Okay, I love this kind of revenge because, my God, you gave them a chance to move their stupid car. First off, I would hate living next to like a pub or some kind of bar because I can imagine crap like this happening way more than you want it to happen. Seriously, some people just suck when they get drunk and they don't think, or they're just completely inconsiderate and they're like, "Oh, I'll just park on your lawn, it's fine." Like, bro, get your stupid car off my lawn. So you're way better than me. Like, I would have immediately towed that car and not thought twice about it because that's absolutely unacceptable. You can't just do that to somebody. So yeah, good for you for getting back at them and making them realize that, yeah, I definitely can't park there, and hopefully they don't do that again. Because if they do, at this point, they're just asking you to vandalize their car. Am I the jerk for not giving up my seat to someone who was already at the bar? Because this guy literally tried to say, after 30 minutes of us sitting here, that he was saving our seat for somebody else, which really put me in a weird situation because I just don't know if I made a mistake here or not. Here's what happened. Okay, so my date and I arrived at an almost full bar, but thankfully we found 2 empty seats near the end. The seats aren't next to each other, but there is a man between them and another man to the left of them. So I take the furthest stool down the row, and I sit down while my date stands, enjoying the company and just patiently waiting for another spot to open up. The man I sit next to is on his phone, enjoying a cocktail. He doesn't even look at us or acknowledge us and simply just minds his own business. Now, the bar was very busy. We didn't get service for about 20 minutes or so. Meanwhile, the other man at the end leaves a seat, but I see no checkbook. So I decide to use the bathroom, telling my date that I plan to take the now open 2 seats for us when I come back. And this is all given that the gentleman isn't returning. Well, on my way to the bathroom, another couple swooped in and took them. So I returned to the same spot as before, and my date now heads to the bathroom. The bartender then finally takes my drink order, and I check my phone to see a text message from my date telling me that the man I'm next to told him that he has a friend coming in about 10 minutes, and he's saving my seat for him. Well, to be honest, I ignored that text message because I didn't plan on leaving my seat after having been there for like 30 minutes at this point. Shortly after, the man does indeed tell me directly that he's waiting on a friend who will be here in a few minutes. I just said to them, "Oh, okay," to which he said, "Yeah, I told the guy you were with." I then said to him, "Okay, well, why didn't you say anything when we first sat down? I mean, we've been here for over 20 minutes. The guy then looked at me and said, "Well, I thought you were just gonna get some drinks and take them elsewhere." He then goes on about how this is an old friend he hasn't seen for a while. And what are they supposed to do? Just stand around? I said to him, "Well, my guest is standing, so I feel like it's reasonable for your guest to stand while we both wait for more open seats." He then looked at me and said, "Well, I mean, I told your friend, but fine, I guess we'll just stand." Now remember, there was also an empty seat to his left when we arrived. Once we took our stool, if he was still saving a seat, he should have told the new couple that he was waiting on a friend. But instead, he felt it was appropriate to ask me to leave my seat after 30 minutes at the bar. I personally don't feel he was entitled to the seat at all, especially given the circumstances. I'm a reasonable human being. If he had just let it be known up front, I would have taken the other open seat. I really didn't want to be confrontational with anybody, especially in front of my date, but I genuinely felt like the man would be pushing me over if I just moved for him. He had every chance to ask us in the beginning, or to ask the couple that actually took the last seat. So seriously, am I the jerk for not moving for this guy? Because this is honestly incredibly frustrating. No, you're not the jerk. This guy's a weirdo. If this guy was saving a seat, he should have said something right then and there. You can't just retroactively be like, "Oh, I was saving that, by the way. You need to move for my friend. Sorry, but you gotta go somewhere else." Like, no, dude, I'm not going anywhere. That's so stupid. Why on earth should I give up my seat just because you're not planning properly? That is literally not my problem. So no, this guy's weird and you are definitely not the jerk. An entitled gym patron moves like a locust around the gym, planting herself at various equipment, doing literally nothing but texting on her phone. But after going on a wild goose chase, constantly telling her to either work out or move out of the way, she finally got the message and had had enough and eventually stormed out of the building. And now I'm left wondering if I took things just a bit too far, because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Yesterday at work, I noticed a woman who I know, who I will call Helen for the sake of the story, and she is one of the regulars at the gym. She and I have always gotten along with no issues, and she definitely knows the rules of the gym. Well, a half hour later, a gym patron approached me and reported someone who was just sitting at a piece of equipment texting on their phone. I then asked which equipment, and when I went to investigate, guess who I found? I found Helen texting away. I then asked her, "Hey, I'm hearing that you're not doing anything for your routine, and instead you're just camping here and texting. What's going on?" Helen then unplugs her earphones and says, "Oh no, I'm just checking something really quickly before I continue." I then told her, "I've been informed by another patron that you're just sitting here." Helen then let out a sigh of disgust and said, "Bunch of little crybabies," all before grabbing her water bottle and storming off to another piece of equipment. Well, for the next hour and a half, I literally got reports of Helen from everybody of her just sitting at various pieces of equipment, literally not doing anything but texting. I was going over to her and having to repeat myself again and again. Well, after the final time I had to ask Helen to stop, she went to the locker room to get her bag and then she left. And my voice is thankfully not hoarse or raspy. My boss then told me that I did everything I could, and the boss will talk to Helen if she comes in again about the rules that she violated, because it was really annoying to have to chase her around the gym, and I hope I don't have to deal with that ever again. Okay, I think you did the right thing here. You really were patient, and it sounds like you tried to have some kind of conversation with her, but my god, if Helen really wants to send a text message, don't block the equipment just to do it. Go sit on the non-workout benches and text away. Do whatever you gotta do. But people are there at the gym to work out. They're there to get their work in and then probably go back to work or something like that. They probably have limited time, and here this lady is just sitting there doing nothing. That's obnoxious, and I would hate to deal with that. So yeah, you did the right thing, and hopefully if Helen does come back, she comes back with a better attitude. Am I the jerk for making someone think that I gave them a job referral to my company when in reality I didn't do that at all? Because after the way I knew about him from university, I truly am convinced that he was going to reflect poorly on my job. And instead, I decided to do nothing, making me really question if I made the right decision or if I really am the jerk here. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I recently started working at a decently reputable company in my country. Naturally, some friends and family are asking me for referrals, which in general I'm happy to give out, as it's mostly been pretty promising people who requested them. However, I know one guy who really didn't work that hard during university, doesn't show any work ethic from my experience doing projects and internships with him. He barely graduated and also doesn't excel in the technical skills required for jobs in our industry. I also don't really vibe that well with his personality, so we aren't super close. I've been working for about 18 months, and in that time, he hasn't landed a job yet, so I also have no track record of whether he has changed or even matured. And wouldn't you guess it, he's also been asking for a referral. As it was on a quick text message, I just told him to send his details over so that I can put it in my portal. However, as I was worried about the implications of referring a poor candidate, I did some research and I read on a few places online that actually bad referrals could reflect poorly on my credibility and reputation professionally. And with how I know him, I'm almost certain that he's not a good fit for this job, this company, and this environment. So in a panic, I decided not to input him as a referral. He's now applied for the job thinking that I referred him. I never said that I did, I just asked for his details, so I think he would logically assume I've done my part. If his resume is somehow really good, again, I know he hasn't been working for like a year and a half, and he's improved a lot from when we crossed paths in university, then he could still land the interviews and maybe the job. I just didn't want to risk human resources getting some kind of negative reflection of me. However, if his application was really close to getting considered and a referral could have boosted his chances, that could mean that I actually took that away from him. So in any case, am I the jerk here? Am I really at fault for trying to protect my reputation? Because right now I'm not really sure. Okay, in my opinion, I don't blame you for trying to protect your reputation, but if you didn't want to be a referral for this guy, you should have been honest. I think it is very messed up to try and lead him on and be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you a good word. If anything, I would just be honest and be like, sorry, I just don't think you'd be a good fit and I can't put my name on this. I would rather do that if your job really is on the line than be like, oh sure, I'll help you out, and then just turn around and do nothing. What's wrong with you? That is really messed up behavior. And sure, he was really not a good student in university, but that doesn't dictate who he is right now. You don't know what kind of stuff he's been doing. You don't know his life entirely. So the fact that you're taking this stance of oh, he was crappy in university, so that means I'm not gonna help him out now, that is super toxic, and I think that definitely means that you're the jerk here, because there really is no reason to act like that. Am I overreacting on my roommate after she gave my spare key to her boyfriend without asking me first? Because right now I'm very pissed off as I barely know her boyfriend, and I simply don't want him to have access to our place without our permission. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I live with my roommate, who I will call Jessica for the sake of the story. We're both about the same age and we've been roommates for about 6 months, and generally we get along fine. Last week I came home from work and her boyfriend was in our apartment alone. Jessica wasn't there. I was really confused and I asked him how he got in, and he said, "Oh, Jessica gave me the spare key." When he said this, I texted Jessica immediately, asking why she gave him a spare key without asking me first. She said she didn't think it was a big deal since he's over all the time anyways, and sometimes she needs him to feed her cat when she's running late. I then told her I'm not comfortable with someone who doesn't live here and doesn't pay rent having a key to our place. She then got defensive and said that I'm being dramatic and that I clearly don't trust her judgment. But the thing is, I barely know this guy. They've only been dating for like 4 months, and our lease specifically says we can't give keys to non-residents without landlord approval. I asked her to get the key back and she said, "He is my boyfriend and not a random person. You're just being paranoid." And now there's tension in the apartment, and her boyfriend has been giving me an attitude when he's over. My best friend says that I have every right to be upset. My mom says, though, that I'm overreacting, and I should just let it go since Jessica trusts him. So seriously, am I overreacting? Because at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, seriously, there's no good excuse for this. If your landlord specifically states, "Hey, don't give out your key to anybody except for someone who lives there," then guess what? That's exactly what you gotta do. So giving it to a boyfriend of 4 months is not the play here, man. That's a stupid idea, and it's only gonna cause you problems. Because you know what? I don't know about you, but I personally would not want to get evicted all because my roommate is giving out keys to people that shouldn't have them. Because that's absolutely what could happen in this scenario. So no, you're not overreacting, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would go straight to the landlord. You've already tried to talk to your roommate in a rational way, but now she's not listening, and it's like, okay, I guess I have to escalate. Because she's being very selfish, and honestly, I think it's time for the landlord to speak some sense into her. My entitled mom demands that I turn back on my tracking system on my phone so that she can know my GPS location whenever she wants. But after getting interrogated by her nonstop, as well as dealing with her constant questions about where I'm at, I decided to cut her off, causing her to lose her mind and accuse me of lying and trying to hide things from her. And now I seriously don't know what to do. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. So I'm a 24-year-old female, and I still live at home with my parents because honestly, I just cannot afford rent on my own right now. I am working on it, but it is a process. A while ago, I added my family to Find My Friends because it did seem harmless at the time. I don't mind if they know where I am, and I'm honestly pretty chill about it. But here's the thing, my mom is constantly checking my location. It's not just her saying, "Hey, what are you up to?" Instead, it's a full-on interrogation. If I'm anywhere that she doesn't recognize, she will call or text me non-stop, asking me who I'm with and why I'm there, not to mention what I'm doing. It's honestly been making me feel like I can't live my own life without her micromanaging me. And the worst part about it is that I've been seeing someone for a couple of months now. The first time I went to his house, I told my mom and she completely freaked out. She spam called me telling me that it was too soon and that I shouldn't get intimate with him. I felt so embarrassed, like I was back in high school or something like that. So now I've started lying, saying that I'm just with friends or out doing random things to avoid interrogation. But here's where I might be the jerk. When I finally turned off location sharing for a bit, because it was honestly getting ridiculous, my mom went off on me. She said to me, "I'm your mother and I'm just worried about you, and you should be grateful I even care." And now because of this, she's accusing me of lying and hiding things from her. I get that she's worried, but I'm an adult, and honestly, I just want some privacy. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to share my location with her? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your mom is absolutely out of line. The fact that she's freaking out on you because you turned off your location tracking, all because she was being a weirdo about it, in my opinion, is completely justified. Like, who in their right mind would go to their 24-year-old daughter and be like, "You need to turn that on right now. You shouldn't be at your boyfriend's house. How dare you do that?" Because at that point, if I was in the original poster's shoes, then I absolutely would have to be like, yeah, I gotta start lying to this lady because she's being so weird. So to the original poster, no, you don't have to turn on your location, and you're definitely not the jerk for deciding to cut her out. Because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic, and you do not not deserve that kind of interrogation in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my ex-roommate to show receipts for the things they claim they paid, as they describe them as miscellaneous expenses? Because right now, I'm incredibly frustrated and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my ex-housemate, who we will call Sandra for the sake of the story, had to leave quite suddenly due to a job falling through and visa issues, and I had to shortly move out to a different place because I couldn't find someone to fill the room. We split expenses where Sandra would pay for the electricity and I would pay for the internet and the water, and we would split cleaning supplies evenly and record all of it. Now, Sandra moved out at the end of September, and yes, I know it's now December, but I've been chasing them to settle our split in money ever since the end of October, which is when the lease office officially finished, and we had our final split of small things to fix at the end of the lease. Sandra has been saying for months that they would need to update the Splitwise for cleaning and miscellaneous things that they had purchased much earlier in the year, and that they forgot to put on Splitwise. Now, their evidence of this was a picture of a bundle of receipts that were completely unreadable in the photo that were all in a Ziploc bag. After weeks of chasing them and Sandra saying they will do it tomorrow, or even them saying they'll do it this week, I promise, they finally uploaded a bulk Splitwise entry of over $250 worth of cleaning and miscellaneous expenses. Now, I was in shock because typically I would purchase most of the cleaning stuff, which our cleaner requested me to specifically buy. I asked them to clarify what miscellaneous meant, and that's when they accused me of implying that they are lying about the expenses and that they're not showing the specific receipts. To make matters worse, I found out recently after ringing the previous electric company that the $900 electric bill, which by the way was 2 months worth because they forgot to pay, is still all outstanding and it hasn't been paid. But they had the audacity to record it on our Splitwise account as being paid off. Now, I haven't brought this particular issue up, and I kept it up my sleeve because it's in their name. And at the end of the day, I just want to be reimbursed for the things I have specifically paid for, which we agreed to split. Having to follow this person up each time and them lying about this is exhausting. At the end of the day, it's just a couple $100 or so, and I'm wondering whether it's worth my time at all. I've mentally accepted the fact that I may not get anything back, so getting something back is great. But after all the lies, it's kind of turning into a principle thing. We are also living in different countries and time zones, which really drags things out even more. What should I do? Oh man, this is an awful situation because I hate to say it, but you are probably never getting any money from this roommate. I guarantee you they're gonna stop communicating with you and they're gonna run off and be like, oh well, these are my items that I'm writing off. Sorry, but I'm not gonna pay anything more than this. Like seriously, that's exactly what they're doing. They're not gonna pay what they have to pay and they're gonna cut and run because you said it yourself. They're in a different country and they're in a different time zone. They've already basically gotten away from you, so it's like, what can you possibly do about it? I don't even know if there's anything legally you can do in the first place. It just sounds like you have a crappy roommate and now you have to pay the price for that. And that's really not fair and you definitely do not deserve that. So truly, I'm so sorry you're going through this and hopefully there's some kind of solution. My entitled neighbors give us one of their cats only to then come back and demand we hand the cat back over. But after we denied their request, they started spreading a false rumor around the neighborhood that we had stolen the cat from them. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of important context, I live in a tiny rustic town with only a few thousand people, and my home is a condo. This is a type of house that has multiple living units on one property. We shared a driveway and a backyard, only separated by a line of weak, rotted fencing. Now, this began on a day I was home alone when I was around 16 or 17 years old. My mom went shopping with my younger sister and left the back door open for our elderly dog, who at the time liked going outside to sit under the tree or use the bathroom as needed. As I was in the living room, a strange shape appeared in the hallway of a new creature we definitely didn't have. It was a kitten so tiny I didn't think it could even walk at that size. I rushed up and quickly herded her over into another room away from the dog, seeing how she walked in from our open back door. After I looked her over, she was tiny and relatively happy but very tired. It's also important to note that she was missing a foot. I let her sleep on the couch as I texted my mother about the situation, and she rushed home. The kitten didn't have a collar, and we weren't about to release her back outside again. After she came home, my mother spoke to the surrounding neighbors to find the owner. She eventually talked to the neighbors in the unit next to us. Now, we had already had issues with the people in the next unit before for more petty reasons, but nothing we bothered to start a fight over. And this would be things like revving a motorcycle at 11 o'clock at night on the lawn, or causing a rat problem in the shared walls. So when she knocked, The tension was high, but they explained the situation. The mother of the family said her cat recently had kittens. She had gotten out one night and met a stray tomcat. She had a large litter that caused restricted womb space, making some kittens not fully develop, which would explain why the kitten had a missing foot. They also said they had left the door open and all the kittens had escaped. Now, they did not want the kittens back and didn't care what we did with the one that we found. She had crawled through the shared rotted fence to get into our yard. So, as the cat distribution system works, we decided to take on the kitten. Although at first, there was hesitation due to the existing animal in the house. So we called it a day and let her sleep in my bedroom to keep the dog and the cat apart as we decided what to do by the morning. As morning came around, we decided to go with an official adoption after seeing if the dog would harm her. Thankfully, we found he had no interest and was plenty retired from chasing cats. So this is where we began with the official process. First, we took her to the store to get cat supplies. We needed a food bowl, a bed, a litter box, some kitten meal, and some new toys chosen by the cat herself. And to our surprise, the neighbors were at the store as well. And I suppose that's the perk of living in an almost village area. Well, they just stared at us and I just slipped off to find some more toys, feeling the discomfort. As I was gone, they approached my mother and shared some short words of congratulations on the new cat, but didn't say much else before leaving. After that, we took her to the vet for an examination, and then we got her registered. After getting the vaccines, checking on her disabled leg, and doing a general exam, the vet officialized the ownership with medical papers of her appointment and updated shots. We chose a name and she was now legally ours. The vet also told us the count of kittens that recently came in, accounting for the entire litter finding owners around the neighborhood. We were the last to bring the kitten in because of our decision on if we should adopt or not. We were informed she wasn't the only one with a missing foot either, which is another perk of a small town. Only one vet that everyone goes to. With that relief of news, we brought her back home and our new life with a cat began. Well, it was normal for about 2 months when things started going oddly. The neighbors suddenly asked for her back, to which my mother said absolutely not. Well, the parents insisted, saying that their little daughter wanted the kitten back and she was still theirs. My mother explained that she was registered with us now and no longer belonged to them as they voluntarily gave her up. Although they threatened to call the cops, no cops were ever called, as we legally did own her now. About a week later, there was a knock at the door. I answered it to see a little child standing on our porch. She only looked about 6 years old and had those big sad eyes asking to see the kitten. I was mostly staying out of the situation, so I called over my mother, who handled it a lot less awkwardly. She brought the cat over to show her that she was healthy and happy, but also explained that we were her family. The child looked sad and gave her a small pet and then ran back to her door. When my mother looked over, she saw the parents standing by the door glaring daggers our way. They clearly sent her over, attempting to guilt us with their kid. My mother then swiftly got her microchipped in case anything happened, as she was getting nervous about the neighbors. For a few more weeks, they continued passively asking for the cat back, before they instead changed to spreading rumors around the neighborhood. When my little sister brought a friend home from school, the friend looked at our cat and said something like, "I heard that you stole her from the kid next door. Is that true?" With shock, my mom explained absolutely not. She was relinquished and registered with us, that we cared for her, and we were the only ones that got her vaccinated and adopted her through official means. But the rumors of the cat theft continued for a while longer. Now, around the Christmas season, things suddenly took a turn when around dinner, we heard a crash from the driveway. We all rushed out to see the father had backed his truck into our car. He was backing in quickly and was very drunk. My mother called the police, only to then be told that he had no license, the car registration was expired, and he had no insurance. He then went off on my mother, claiming it was all because we were thieves and kidnapped their innocent daughter's cat. Now, I did not hesitate to run back inside and not get involved as the arguing continued. Well, less than 2 weeks later, they suddenly moved out and cut all contact. They didn't report to court or inform the police or anyone else in the county where they were going. The family fell off the map for almost a full year before a family friend ran into the father working at a gas station the next town over. My mother contacted his new job and explained the lawsuit and that she needed information to contact him, and actually got them to relinquish information so that they could send a letter to the family's mail. It took a long time to get all the needed information from the workplace, but eventually, the family was pressured into paying her the court-ordered money for the car repairs. They then tried to countersue for the theft of the cat, but it was dismissed when we provided the necessary documents of the adoption. The kitten is fully grown now, and she is a spoiled princess that runs my mother's house. I go over and visit often to see her, and I give her lots of cuddles. And we have 2 more recent rescues along with Arthur. Unfortunately, my dog passed away in 2019, but he also lived a very happy and spoiled life. After the lawsuit was finished, we dropped contact with the family, and they stopped demanding the cat back when their countersuit was dismissed. And every so often, one of us does run into one or two of the family members, and even still to this day, they still glare at us as if we did something wrong. Wow, I cannot believe these neighbors. First and foremost, they're pieces of garbage for involving their daughter in this, but also the fact that they're like, oh yeah, you can have the cat, and then after you've put all the work in to get it vaccinated and officially registered, they try to be like, oh wait, we want the cat back, it's ours. It's like, no, it's not, you gave it up, I'm sorry, that's not gonna work that way. Like seriously, they need to get a grip and also get out of your life. And what an awesome ending to this, because you actually got your car parts paid for. Like, did they really think they could run and get away with this? That is such a sketchy thing to do to somebody, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm so glad you guys got to keep your cat, because these people do not sound like good pet owners in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not cooking a second meal for my younger siblings after they refused to eat what I made? Because right now my parents are out of town and I'm the only one taking care of everything at the house. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female and I have two younger siblings, ages 9 and 7. Our parents recently had to go on a quick trip the next state over for a meeting, but due to bad weather, they got stuck because it was really severe weather. It's been a few days, and while they've been checking in, I've had to take over everything at home, including looking after my siblings. I don't mind helping out, but it's been exhausting managing schoolwork, chores, and making sure they don't set the house on fire. Well, a few days ago, I decided to go all out and cook a proper meal for dinner. I made a spinach and cheese lasagna from scratch, which took me hours between prepping, baking, and cleaning up. I was really proud of it, and it smelled amazing, and it looked straight out of a food magazine. However, when I served it, the 9-year-old girl poked at it like it was toxic waste, and the 7-year-old boy flat out said, "This is gross, I want nuggets." Well, I was frustrated, but I stayed calm and I told them, this is dinner. If you don't want it, that's fine, but I'm not making anything else. Well, they refused to eat that and just went back to watching TV. I figured they would eventually get hungry and eat, but when I checked later, they still had not eaten anything. I still tried to push them, but eventually I gave up because I had a pile of homework and I was already drained. Fast forward to the next few days when my mom called in. She asked if everything was okay, and I mentioned the lasagna incident. Well, she got upset and said something like, well, they have to eat something. Kids don't like that kind of stuff. I then explained that I didn't have the time or energy to whip up a second meal when I'm juggling everything else. She then got even angrier, saying that they haven't eaten much in days because they're too picky to eat what I've made. And look, I get it, they're kids, and I'm not a professional chef, but I feel like I've already done my part by cooking, cleaning, and keeping them alive. I didn't sign up to be their personal short order cook, and for context, due to the weather conditions, ordering any kind of food out is just not an option. So truly, am I really the jerk for drawing the line and not making them something else when they refuse to eat? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your parents should be grateful and on their hands and knees thanking you for taking care of things. And sure, kids might not eat that kind of stuff, but guess what? They have to eat. And the fact that they're being so picky during a time like this is honestly so annoying. And if anything, maybe the parents should talk to the 9 and 7-year-old and explain to him, hey, this is the food you've got and you've got to eat it. So no, you're definitely not the jerk because you literally are doing exactly what you need to do. And the fact that your parents are giving you a hard time, in my opinion, is incredibly annoying. Would I be the jerk if I refused to lend my college fund for my cousin so that he can finish up his degree? Because right now I'm so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female and I have a bit of a problem. My 22-year-old male cousin wants to move to another city to finish his last years of college. He's been failing his chosen program for a bit now, and he is convinced that switching locations will help him finally finish his degree. He's even talked to his mother about it, but from what I've heard, she hasn't exactly been pleased as it's going to cost a lot of money, which would be around 5 digits in my country's currency from his estimation. This is a new city far away from where we currently live now, and the everyday basic needs aren't even counted in his said estimation, such as rent, food, electricity, and the likes, because it really could cost more than that if you consider everything. Our grandmother is asking me to lend him the money, but I just received that amount back from another family member who I had lent to for other personal reasons. I had agreed to lend the money a year ago, and recently I just received 90% of it. Now, on the same day I received this money, my grandmother is asking me if I can lend about 80% of what I got back to my cousin for his education. Now, I'm about to start college myself in a few months, and this money was meant to help me secure my future. I don't want to sound selfish, but I'm scared that lending him this money will derail my own plans. I know my cousin's situation is difficult, but he has been struggling in his program for quite a bit now. Personally, if you ask me, I have no hope for him in this program that he's chosen to take, even if he seems so convinced that changing universities and locations will somehow help him complete it, because it really seems like this might not even be the path for him. And this is because he has repeated a year or so in said college program, all due to not meeting the required units that he needed to pass in order to go to the next year of college. His chances of actually finishing seems pretty slim, given how much he's been failing to pass. And no offense, but I'm not sure I want to risk my future for someone who hasn't been able to get it together yet. I want to talk about it with my family once more, as we have already talked about this before, and try to convince him to switch to something more feasible and one that will help him finally graduate, as it has been one of his greatest concerns. But he has been pretty adamant about finishing this program, even going as far as to say that if I'm not graduating with this program, then I better not graduate at all. I don't want to disappoint my family, but I'm genuinely very torn. If I lend him this money, I might jeopardize my own education and the future I've planned for myself. I feel like I'm being selfish by not helping out, but at the same time, I need to think about myself. I've talked to my parents about this, but so far they haven't given me any answers, and they keep changing the subject. So seriously, would I be the jerk for refusing to lend my college fund to my cousin? Because right now I feel so very confused and I don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, no, you are not the jerk for denying this from him, because seriously, there are so many things wrong in this story. For starters, the only reason your grandma's coming to you is because she knows that you have already done this once before. She knows that you willingly give out money like this, and so she's like, wait a second, I know you just got like most of your money back, but you should give about 80% of it to your cousin for college. And that is so toxic, because clearly she knows what's going on, and that is not a good thing. She knows that you just got that money back, which is why she's asking in the first place. Like, it really seems like everybody's talking about you at your expense, and this is somehow throwing you under the bus. And also, why is this falling on your shoulders? You're only 18 years old. Why are you paying for your 22-year-old cousin's college? This guy's also moving to another city thinking this is gonna somehow like increase his chances of graduating, but in all actuality, this guy's probably not gonna pass. You said it yourself. He hasn't passed some of the units before, so why should you invest in him when you literally just got that money back? Like, seriously, this guy's future is not in your hands. It's in his. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't even sound like he needs to switch cities in the first place. Like, this really does seem like a want over a need. Like, big time if you ask me. So no, in my opinion, I think you would be well within your right to save your money and keep it for yourself. Because I really am convinced there's some kind of like ulterior motive from everybody in your family. And if you're not careful, then other family members will come along and use you as an ATM machine, because right now that's the only way they've ever treated you. An entitled Karen thinks that she owns the drive-thru by demanding that she get her food before anybody else. But when she doesn't get her way, she starts to cause chaos in a way that is truly unacceptable. And now, as a result, she's on the run from the police, as she booked it from the parking lot the second they showed up. Here's what happened. So I'm at Chick-fil-A the other day, and at this location, they have two drive-thru lanes, one for regular orders and the other for mobile orders. And for me, I always use the mobile lane because it is way faster. Well, that is until today. Things start going wrong once the entitled Karen of this story comes into play. She cuts me off while pulling into the parking lot, which is the first big red flag, but honestly, I think to myself, whatever. There's no one else in the mobile lane, so it's not that big of a deal. Well, when I pull in behind her, I immediately notice that she's not holding a phone to scan a QR code like a normal person. Instead, she's sitting there, waving at the attendants. Well, newsflash, nobody monitors the mobile lane, so naturally, she starts laying on the horn like a lunatic. Eventually, though, an employee does come over. Before he's even at her car, she starts barking out her order. And this is not a short one. This woman orders like she's feeding an army. After ordering her food, she drives off without paying. The guy literally has to chase her down to get her payment. Then she pulls up to the window where I'm still stuck right behind her, despite having scanned my code and being ready to grab my food in seconds. The employee at the window asks her to pull around to one of the waiting spots, but she refused to do so. She then screamed out, "No, it always takes longer if I pull around." The employee then explains very patiently, if I might add, that pulling around won't delay her order, but it will let them serve the people behind her whose food is ready. She then responds by saying, "It's not really fair to prepare their orders before mine when I was here first." The employee tries to explain how food stations work, but she interrupts him by saying, "They should all be working on the first person's order. I know you just make minimum wage, but this really shouldn't be that hard to understand. After what felt like forever, the manager appears at the window. He leans out and very politely asks her to pull around, even promising to personally bring her food out as soon as it's ready. To top it all off, he offers her a complimentary peppermint shake as an apology for the inconvenience. Well, what does this entitled Karen do? She knocks the shake out of his hand, and it goes flying everywhere. On him, inside the window, it's total chaos. She even has the nerve to honk her horn at me. But finally, karma starts to take hold. A couple minutes later, 2 police officers walk around the front of the drive-thru road, coming straight towards her. This Karen laughs at the manager, saying, "Oh, you really called the police?" The manager calmly responds by saying, "No, ma'am, they were at the counter when I walked by covered in the shake that you knocked over. They also heard you shouting and honking. I told them it was fine, but they wanted to check on the situation." At this point, the officers reached her car and told her if she doesn't pull forward and talk to them, they will arrest her for assault and move the car themselves. Well, she finally pulls around, but surprisingly, she doesn't stop, and instead, she speeds out of the parking lot. Well, when she did this, the police just laughed. She has a very easy to remember vanity plate, and they told the manager that they're adding obstruction of justice for failing to comply with a lawful order when they finally will track her down. And hopefully that happens soon, because the way she treated everybody was absolutely unacceptable. Wow, I can't imagine going to Chick-fil-A and acting like that. Is the food you're getting really worth going to jail? Like seriously, just get in line like everybody else, or actually order properly through the application like you should have. So hopefully for the sake of the story and everybody who was affected by this weirdo, she gets arrested for running away from the police, because her behavior is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend owes me thousands of dollars that he is still refusing to pay me back on, as he continuously makes excuses and keeps putting off the date that he's supposed to pay me back. Because right now, I feel very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for over 2 years. In the beginning, we split expenses for dates and meals equally, but over time, I've ended up covering most of the cost. He rarely takes out his card, even though he claims to make over 3 times more than me in a year. I work one job, I earn a decent income, and I can live independently, but the imbalance has been frustrating. Well, to address this, I suggested using Splitwise about 1.5 years ago so that we could track shared expenses. I've logged everything diligently, but he has not entered receipts for the few times he's paid, and this year, by about May, he owed me about $5,000. When I started asking him to pay me back in June, it turned into multiple fights. He made excuses, promised to pay me tomorrow, but rarely followed through. By August, he had paid me $2,600, but $2,400 is still pending. He promised to pay the rest by the first week of October, then he postponed it to November, and then to the end of November, but now it's December, and I haven't received anything. He continues to make excuses, even though he clearly has the time and money to pay me back. I've tried everything, calm conversations, begging, even arguing, but nothing works. I even offered to help him use Splitwise, but he doesn't make any effort. What adds to my frustration is his other behavior. He frequently steals small items from grocery stores, and it feels like a pattern of irresponsibility and a lack of accountability. I've considered reaching out to his family for help, but even his stepmother mentioned that he owes her money too. He's paid her back more than he's ever paid me, which makes me feel like he values her relationship more than ours. At this point, I feel hopeless and I don't know how to move forward. So truly, how can I retrieve my money that he owes me? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're gonna like what I'm gonna say, but just like previous stories we've covered on this channel, I think this might be a lost cause. If he really did care about you, then he would take the steps to try and pay you back. But this guy's only paid you maybe half of what he should have paid you, and that seriously is so unfair for you. The second someone owes me thousands of dollars, that would literally be the moment I start questioning everything I know about that person, especially if it's someone who's claiming to be in a relationship with me. Like, just look at the way your boyfriend is acting. This is so unfair, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this kind of behavior, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not showing up to my sister's wedding, all because she didn't want my girlfriend coming with me, as my family absolutely hates our relationship? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I don't get along with my family. I was kicked out at 18 years old and forced to live in my car and survive, and I've had to learn how to do everything on my own. Through the time that I was homeless, I never received a single text message, a call, anything from from my sister or any of my siblings. The only people that were concerned were one of my friend's moms, who graciously started a GoFundMe and bought me groceries and surprised me with all of it when I was at my lowest point, and then later on even graciously paid for a transmission rebuild for my car. I mean, truly, I owe it all to that woman. But anyways, fast forward and I'm now doing a lot better. I have a place to live and I have a roommate. I also have another nicer, newer car, as I got a loan myself, and I have a full-time job and a girlfriend. So basically, I'm doing okay. Around this time, my sister gets engaged, and out of the blue, she invites me to her wedding. Now, I'm kind of shocked because the few times I visited my parents, despite what they did to me, the family tore me down and insulted my girlfriend and told me my relationship would never last. All the while, my sister is engaged and the family is praising her, and her husband has essentially become my replacement. Well, I told my parents I would think about it anyways, and I had learned that my sister would be inviting a ton of people who were just acquaintances or friends, and had told my siblings they could bring some people that they knew. So my girlfriend and I just decided to plan on going and just get it over with. Well, my sister learned that I planned on bringing my girlfriend, and she actually tells me no, that she doesn't want her there. At this point, I was frustrated, and I just decided it wasn't even worth it at this point. Why would I show up for them when they haven't even talked to me in a year? So I don't go, I stay home, and I just sleep. But then I wake up to a bunch of angry text messages with literally everybody guilt-tripping me, asking me where I was. But you know what? I ignored them and I went about my day. So truly, am I the jerk considering the circumstances? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't blame you for a second for not showing up. These people sound incredibly toxic, and they've honestly gone completely overboard with hating on you. It doesn't sound like they have a good reason for any of this too. Like they not only kicked you out when you're 18, but then when you do decide to come around, they trash you and your girlfriend. And it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? This is really not fair, especially considering the fact that you had to rebuild your entire life. These people left you with nothing, and now they're expecting you to play by their rules, despite the fact that everybody else can bring someone with them. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I regret moving with my partner to another country because now I feel completely trapped, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 39-year-old female, and my 56-year-old partner and I have been living together for almost 3 years now. 1 year in my house offshore, and 2 years in his country. I've been out of work for 2 years since I left my job, my social life with my friends and family, and all of my hobbies. I enjoyed swimming, yoga, gym workouts, and free diving. I've now been struggling because I no longer have these, which I know might seem like a foolish move since I had a pretty happy life back home. And besides the boring job that I had, I deeply miss everything else. I thought I could make new friends here and pick up my hobbies, but I didn't realize how isolating his place would be, and I'm now starting to feel very depressed and anxious. I didn't work because we were trying to conceive, and I believe that reducing stress would help out. We were advised to undergo IVF, but it turns out we don't have the financial resources for that. I also worked for him on the farm sometime before and asked if he could pay me hourly to help cover some of the bills I left back home. However, he stopped paying me hourly because he felt it's not really a teamwork between us. Well, I agreed, and he gives me $580 per month as help. I still help with the work, and he said the money he saves from my work can go towards my wants and my needs. But somehow we always end up without any extra funds, which after checking the figures, I believe is true. So now I'm still in debt, I have no savings, and I can't buy or do the things that I want. I'd like to go home, but in my country, it's difficult to find a job in your 40s, especially since the industry I worked in is struggling at the moment. I feel trapped, but I can't fully open up to my partner because he is sensitive, and sometimes he takes things personally. I think this may also be due to the financial stress he's experiencing, but I honestly feel so lost that now I don't know what to do. So if there ever was a situation where I can confidently say this is incredibly sketchy, this would absolutely be it, because what you just described sounds like a nightmare. Let me get this straight. You moved to another country, you have no job, you have no social life, you left your friends, your family, and all of the things you enjoyed to live with a man who basically has you working on his farm for free. He's not paying you, and he gives you like what, $500 a month, claiming that all the money he's saving is going to be used towards anything you want or you need? Like, what is going on right now? This guy basically tricked you into working for free under the assumption that you two love each other, and you're too afraid to say anything because he's sensitive. Like, dude, look around and see your surroundings. This is not a healthy environment. If anything, this is like what nightmares are made of. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would reach out to family or friends friends back home and send them some kind of like SOS message, because it really seems like he's trying to trap you with him on purpose, because none of this is adding up, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and go back home. Am I the jerk for not letting my ex-roommate use my Amazon Prime account after she spent all of my gift card on movies that she wanted? Because now she's calling me up screaming that I ruined her movie night, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, my roommate and I were roommates for part of the first semester in college, and for the sake of the story, I'll call this roommate Jay. At first, everything was great. We would eat together, we would talk all night, and we would go shopping. But it all changed, however, when we rushed for a sorority. I got into the one that she wanted, and she got into a different one. From then on, she was a little more distant, but we were still good friends. It's also worth mentioning that on our shared TV, which I bought by the way, I paid for Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Peacock, while her parents paid for Max and Netflix. And I didn't have a problem with this because I had money saved from a young age to do what I wanted with in college. Later, I found out that she had to move out due to health reasons, and I know how it sounds, but it was actual health reasons with certain foods that she needed to cook. I was a little bit upset because she told me a week before she moved out, but either way, I understood and I supported her. The entire process, she was out with her friends at her sorority and left me to pack up her stuff, which I did because I wanted to be nice. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and she asked me to log out of her Netflix and Max account, which I had not used since she moved out and frankly forgot that she had. So I did that as soon as possible. Later that same week, I look on my Amazon account and I saw that a gift card I had on there was used up. When I looked into it, I saw that some movies were rented that I didn't rent. So I texted and asked if she had rented movies or something like that, and she said that she did. I asked her why she was on my Amazon account, and she said that she didn't have one and that she wanted it. I told her that it wasn't fair that I had to get off the Netflix, but she can spend the money to watch a movie. Well, she said it was different because the Netflix account was hers, and according to her, the Amazon account was something we shared. But I said no. I told her that if she didn't get off my account, then I would find a way to kick her off myself. Well, she refused, so I called my dad and we figured it out. She then called me screaming that I ruined her movie night with her friends, but I basically said, well then pay for your own then. So truly, was I wrong for doing what I did? Because right now, I'm not sure if I was the jerk or not. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Jay sounds incredibly entitled and very spoiled. You mean to tell me that they actually asked you to get off of their account, but then they go on yours and spend actual money you had saved up on that thing? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so unfair. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because what she did to you, in my opinion, is way worse than what you did to her. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law that he needs to stop his weird hobby before he ruins the entire family? Here's what happened. So this has been brewing for a while now, so truly, you need to buckle up for this one. My brother-in-law, who we will call Dan, is my husband's older brother, and I guess he's always been a bit eccentric, but things have escalated recently in a way that has me seriously questioning my sanity. For context, Dan is single. He works from home and has no kids. Over the past year, he's gotten really into urban exploration, and we're talking like going into abandoned buildings and tunnels and stuff like that. At first, it seemed kinda cool. It was weird, but it was harmless. He would show up to family dinners with stories about this haunted factory or that abandoned hospital, and it's just like, okay, whatever. We all just humored him and it was fine. But then he started bringing stuff back, like random junk that he has scavenged, old signs and broken chairs, creepy dolls, I mean, you name it, he brought it, and he calls it reclaiming history. My husband and I tried to politely suggest that maybe this isn't safe, but he just brushes it off like we're boring normies who just don't get it. The breaking point came last weekend. My husband and I hosted a family barbecue, and Dan showed up late, dragging this rusty, massive old safe he found in some abandoned house. He parked it in the middle of our driveway as if he just scored a treasure chest. He's grinning ear to ear, telling everyone he's gonna crack it open because according to him, it could have money or gold or some kind of secret to it. But guys, let me tell you something. This safe was disgusting. It smelled like mildew, it was covered in cobwebs, and God knows what was inside. So I told him he could not keep it at our house. But when I said that, he got all defensive, saying I was ruining his discovery and being uptight. My husband tried to back me up, but Dan just said, oh, you're just jealous because I have a cool hobby. We ended up making him leave with the safe, but not before he made a huge scene about how nobody in this family supports him. Well, now my in-laws are mad at me, saying that I overreacted and embarrassed him in front of everyone. They think that I should have just let him keep it for the day to avoid the drama. So now I'm starting to wonder if I'm the jerk here, because at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I have to say that I think Dan's hobby is a little bit weird, but it is harmless for the most part. If he wants to explore like abandoned buildings or tunnels, then go for it. Like, that's really cool. And while I think it's wrong to steal things from those locations, such as like dolls or even a safe in this case, overall it's relatively harmless and nobody's really doing anything wrong. But for me, the biggest red flag is the fact that this guy is bringing this stuff over to your house. Because sure, he probably really enjoys looking through these abandoned buildings and finding cool artifacts that he can bring back and show to people. But for him to bring it over to your house and drop it literally in your driveway and be like, wow, look at this thing I found. Like, that to me is a little bit too much and way over the line. Because seriously, I wouldn't want a safe in my driveway, and that's hardly him scavenging anything. He straight up stole a safe from an abandoned property and said, oh man, look at this treasure chest. And it leads me to believe that this guy is hardly an explorer, because if anything, he's kind of just a thief. And the fact that he's bringing it to your house to be like, look at this thing that definitely smells like garbage, like, that would be super annoying to me, and I would be like, dude, just keep it at your place. I don't want it in my yard. So I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, because he really should not be bringing this stuff to your house, because that, in my opinion, completely crosses the line. Today, I messed up by going camping in the woods by myself, and I've honestly never been more terrified in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I decided that it would be a great idea to go camping in the woods alone. Just me, my tent, and a weekend of solitude to clear my head. No distractions, no noise, just nature. And I really thought that it sounded peaceful, but trust me when I say this, it was not. Everything was fine at first. I found a spot, I pitched my tent after struggling for way too long with the stupid poles, and I even got a fire going, which I was way too proud of myself about. By the time the sun started setting, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I had some snacks, a little folding chair, and a nice fire to keep me warm. Then the night fell, and oh my god, I was not ready for how dark it gets in the woods. Like, I thought my eyes would adjust, but no. Every sound, the wind, the leaves, some animal far off, it all sounded like it was coming straight for me. I kept thinking to myself, you're fine, this is just how nature sounds like. But I was holding my flashlight like a sword just in case. Around midnight, I started hearing rustling that sounded way too close to my tent. It wasn't just the wind. This was something moving. My heart was racing, but I convinced myself it was probably a raccoon or something like that. I stayed still, trying to not make any noise, but the sound just kept getting louder. And then, I swear, I heard what sounded like footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling my tent. At this point, I'm losing it. I'm holding my pocket knife in one hand, shaking so bad I'm probably useless if anything happens. I tried to turn off my flashlight so that whoever it was or whatever it was wouldn't be able to see me. But in reality, I was too scared to even reach for the button. The footsteps stopped and there was a silence for a few minutes. I was about to convince myself I imagined it when something tapped on the side of my tent. I have never been so close to passing out in my life. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just sat there clutching my knife, waiting for the end to take me. Eventually, I heard the footsteps fade into the distance, and I forced myself to peek outside. I couldn't see anything, but I didn't feel safe staying there. So I packed up as fast as I could, and I booked it back to my car. It was the longest walk of my life, and I was 100% convinced that something was following me the entire time. I drove home in the middle of the night, shaking the entire way. I still don't know what or who was out there, but I'm honestly never doing that ever again. Oh man, there is no way I would ever go camping by myself. Like, that sounds really scary, and there's no way anyone could convince me to do that. So the fact that you did that in the first place is very impressive. But hopefully, if you ever do that again, something like that never happens again, because that sounds like an absolute nightmare. An entitled Karen attacks me in Walmart, all because I scared her daughter because of my Halloween costume. But once the cops were called, I decided to press charges, resulting in this entitled Karen going straight to jail. Here's what happened. Okay, so this event happened back in the week of Halloween in 2002. Now, Halloween was on a Thursday that year, and the costume party I was attending was the Saturday before on the 26th. This will be important to the story, but also it's important to know that I was recovering from a stroke that I had had 3 months prior. Anyways, my stepbrother was throwing a costume party at his house, and I was really looking forward to it, especially since I hadn't done much socially the past few months. My friend and I were excited to go. I was dressed up as Uncle Fester from the Addams Family, and my friend was going as Zorro, and we had to make a pit stop at the nearby Walmart so that my friend could grab a plastic sword for his costume, and I decided to pick up a few extra snacks and drinks, so I went as well. We would get stopped by random customers who complimented our costumes, and we would thank them, but we were men on a mission. Once we grabbed everything we needed, we headed straight to the checkout lines. I should also note that I deal with some social anxieties, so I was looking around to assess my surroundings while waiting in line. Well, this is when the entitled Karen of this story comes into play. She absolutely looked the part, down to the blonde hair hair and the costume jewelry. She had a little girl in the cart who screamed like crazy the instant she saw me. I immediately began to apologize to this Karen, stating that frightening her daughter was not my intent. But before I could even finish, she cuts me off and gives me the tongue lashing of a lifetime. She says to me, "Who do you think you are, going around like this, scaring innocent little kids when it's not even Halloween? What is wrong with you?" We then locked eyes and I responded by saying, "You're right that it's a few days before Halloween, but all the parties are tonight. But I'm a reasonable man, so I'll tell you what, I'll remove my face makeup if you take off your mask." She then starts to respond by saying, "But I'm not wearing a mask." "Oh, you absolute jerk, how dare you speak to me like that?" I then say to her, "But I did. So what now?" It was then that I was met with a sudden sharp pain to my knees as I fell over. This entitled Karen rammed her cart right into me. As I was still recovering from my stroke, my equilibrium was lacking and I fell straight to the ground. The cashier in our lane immediately paged for a manager and loss prevention, and Karen attempted to backtrack and leave the lane. But as it was, 2 other customers had blocked her in. As my friend was helping me back onto my feet, I saw the manager and loss prevention rushing over to see the commotion. The manager and I sat on a nearby bench, also that I could explain everything that happened, and loss prevention led Karen in the opposite direction. And after a few minutes, a police officer approaches. I greet the officer, I identify myself, and he asked me if I want to press charges against the Karen for attacking me. And I happily told him absolutely. The cop radios to a partner, and a minute later, I see a Karen being escorted out in handcuffs, followed by another officer carrying her young daughter. Now, when it comes to the Karen herself, she was formally charged and ended up with a $1,500 fine and having 14 days in jail. But looking back, I really should thank this Karen. The little limp I got from the spill added to my costume, and everybody thought it was intentional, despite the fact that it's because of this crazy entitled Karen. Wow, talk about overreacting. She literally rammed her cart into you after some stupid joke. Like seriously, what is wrong with people like that? It's obvious the original poster was going to like some kind of Halloween party. I mean, it is right around Halloween when this happened. How can this Karen really not connect the dots and be like, oh yeah, this is probably for some party? That makes sense. So seriously, good for you for pressing charges, because that entitled Karen absolutely deserved to get in trouble. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my neighbors not to park their car behind mine, as they've done this multiple times? Here's what happened. I want to start off by saying that I live in a triple complex, and there are 3 driveways to this complex. 1 for the first unit, 1 for the second unit, and 2 for my unit, which is the biggest unit. All driveways have been spray painted to label which driveways are belonging to which unit. Well, recently my neighbor has been having people stay over at their place for weeks at a time. I really don't care if they have people over. It's not my business and it's not my issue. But recently, they started telling their friends and family to park behind my fiance's work van, which is on our side of the driveway. They did not ask us if this was okay, and it was not just for one day. Eventually, a day came around where we had to ask them to move so that my fiance could open the back doors to his van, as they parked close enough to where he couldn't even open them. Well, they did move their car, and then when we went back inside, they moved it right back. Mind you, their side of the driveway has space for another car, but they chose to park behind our car. I imagine they tell their friends and families to park behind our van because they move their car during the day and they don't want to have to rearrange cars when they have to leave. Well, I tried to knock on their door to tell them they needed to move their car so my fiance could move and operate his van for work, even just to get his tools out of the back, but they would not answer the door. They have been extremely rude to me in the past for no reason, and they are very new to the complex. So I decided to write a short note and put it on the windshield of their car. The note says the following: "Please do not park behind this van without asking. I need to be able to get my tools out and get out of this spot because of work. Thank you." Well, for some reason, I just feel guilty and that they will get upset and go to my landlord and make this into some big issue. So am I the jerk for making them move, or am I overthinking things? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk here. If anyone should be making a bigger deal out of this, it's you. Why on earth are you putting up with this? These people have been rude to you, they've moved their car right back behind your van, and they've generally been very rude neighbors. Like, that's 3 strikes and you're out in my opinion, because at that point, not only am I going to get the landlord involved, but I might just tow your car while you're at it. If I verbally told you and left a note on your car saying, hey, you can't park here, then you are definitely on thin ice if you choose to do it again. So if I was in your shoes, I would be documenting everything. I would take pictures of every time they parked their car behind my van, and I would timestamp anytime I spoke to them or left a note with a copy of the note just in case they try to dispute it. I would then forward all of this to the landlord and be like, you can either deal with this or I'm gonna have the car towed. And I will do that every single time they park behind my van. Because here's the thing, if they were just nice neighbors, all of this could be handled in a reasonable way. But because they want to be jerks about it, that's where the gloves are off. Because then I'm just gonna be like, okay, fine, I'll tow your car and think nothing more of it. So no, you're not the jerk for telling these people not to park behind your car, because that really should be the bare minimum that you expect from your neighbor, as these idiots don't sound like good people in the slightest. Am I the jerk for rage quitting after I lost an election simply because all the votes weren't completely counted? Because after the higher-ups denied me being voted as the president of our organization, while also demanding that I keep quiet about it, I decided to step away, with me being more than willing to watch things fall apart. Here's what happened. So I'm a 28-year-old female, and I have been a member of a large volunteer organization for several years. I am one of the longest standing members. I have spent hundreds of hours on various aspects of it. I've held small leadership positions in almost every area, and I have a large amount of experience being the president of another organization as well. When I first joined, things were not doing well, so I, along with others, worked our tails off just to improve that, and eventually we did. In fact, we did so well with improving the atmosphere that we had a massive amount of incoming members who quickly became very close with each other and have absolutely no idea how bad things used to be, or how much behind the scenes work it takes to maintain the way things are now. I ran for president in the most recent election, and I ran against 5 other candidates. 4 of us had years of experience and had been preparing our campaign for months, if not years. One person, who we will call Alex, was extremely new and only had been there for a few weeks. They had zero experience at all, decided to run at the last minute, and they had a very large friend group with other new members. Now, Alex was barely allowed to run due to how new they were, but made the cut by a handful of days. And I'm sure you can see exactly where this is going. It was extremely close between me and Alex, and I lost literally by 1 vote. The rest of the elected officials were all new members of the same friend group, also without any experience. It was then that I discovered that 9 to 10 votes, specifically the votes of other people in leadership positions who worked closely with me, were not counted at all. And this was not intentional or malicious, but simply a computer error. Apparently, every single one of them voted for me. I technically had won. They tried to get the election results overturned because of it, but higher-ups would not allow it because they feared it would look like favoritism. At the end of the day, I was told to keep quiet and not let anyone else know about this, which now brings me up to my current situation. Because nobody on the new executive team has any experience, I started facing a lot of pressure to take on a lower leadership position solely so that I could guide them and ensure that our hard work doesn't go straight down the tube. But you know what? I absolutely refused. In fact, I've decided to drop all leadership roles and do absolutely nothing this year. This has led to multiple people telling me that I don't really care about the organization and that I will be responsible if it falls apart. I feel like it's a slap in the face to expect me to do what a president does without the title to show for it. So am I the jerk for dropping all leadership positions and letting the new team do whatever they want to do? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. Oh wow, this is absolutely unbelievably toxic. I would be losing my mind if I actually won the election and anyone above me tried to be like, oh, just keep quiet about this. We don't want anyone to think that this is favoritism. But it's like, what are you talking about? I won the election. Of course it's favoritism. Everybody voted for me. Like, this is an insane precedent to take because you literally saved this volunteer organization. You are the reason that this place hasn't fallen apart, and the fact that you're not recognized for that, in my opinion, is insane. There's no good excuse for that, and I honestly don't blame you for being pissed off. Now, in my opinion, I think you absolutely should scream this from the rooftops. You should tell everybody, hey, the higher-ups don't want me to say this, but this is what's actually going on. And explain to everybody that technically you did win, but the people above you don't want you to say anything about it. And that kind of censorship, in my opinion, is not okay. That is so crazy it's not even funny. And this is especially easy to prove if you have like a paper trail of some kind. So hopefully this all works out for you, and hopefully you're able to put people in their place when it comes to why you're leaving this all as it is. Because this kind of treatment, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for telling my fiance that his cousin's girlfriend is not welcome in our new home? Because after the way she treated us, I literally want nothing to do with her. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been with my fiance for 5 years. Early in our relationship, he and his cousin, who we will call Steve, purchased a house together as co-owners. My fiance's sister and their other cousin also lived there for a while. Now, everything was fine until 2 years later, when Steve started dating a woman who quietly moved into the house after only 4 months of dating. And this upset everyone since it wasn't discussed with the household. She doesn't work, she doesn't go to school, and she doesn't contribute financially. Basically, she spends her days reorganizing the house while constantly on the phone with Steve. She's extremely controlling. She goes through his phone, sits in on all of his calls, and ensures that he's always with her or talking to her. He is never alone, even at work or in the car. At first, she seemed really sweet, and the family really liked her, but over time, she began subtly isolating Steve from everybody. She convinced him to have my fiance's sister and their cousin move out, leaving just her, Steve, and my fiance in the house. She made my fiance feel uncomfortable in his own home, and now she plans to have her brother move into Steve's house, which is basically her removing Steve from his own family. Her passive-aggressive behavior is exhausting. She labels communal items like salt with her name on it so no one else can use them. She reorganizes shared spaces filled with things that aren't hers and ignores me completely when I come over. When Steve isn't home, she hides in her room and acts cold and dismissive. She is a completely different person when he is not around, and it's clear that these are her true colors. Some family members have voiced concerns about her controlling behavior to Steve, but he insists that he loves her and he just turns a blind eye. And while she is the instigator, I don't think Steve is completely innocent. He is literally allowing this behavior to happen. Recently, she convinced Steve to buy my fiance out of the house, so now we are moving out in a week. And I am relieved, but honestly, this is where my issue starts. I've told my fiance I don't want her in our new house. I'm fine with Steve visiting, but I don't want her there. If she couldn't show us basic respect while living in a house my fiance co-owned, I refuse to let her treat us poorly in our own space. Now, I don't want to stir the pot or cause any drama, but I also refuse to let my boundaries be disrespected or normalize the way she treats us. My fiance is torn because he wants to maintain his relationship with Steve, but I feel strongly about this boundary. So am I the jerk for saying I don't want Steve's girlfriend in our home? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, I don't think you're the jerk, but truly I think it could be very tricky if you try to make this kind of boundary. Because I guarantee you if Steve's coming over, then his girlfriend is probably going to be there as well. Like, you did describe her as super clingy and weird, so it does seem like this is going to be like a package deal if they go anywhere. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to set that up, but I really think you need to be ready for any kind of negative consequence. My entitled mom steals from just about anybody she can get in front of, as she has constantly pulled scam after scam all throughout my childhood. And now I no longer talk to her because this is something I don't want to deal with. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mother is not a very nice person, just to say the least. She is a lazy person who doesn't like to work and can never stay in one job or one house or keep one car. She is habitually homeless. Thankfully, I live with my dad now, but I still had to live with her for 14 years and deal with her garbage that she put me through. Here are some of the scams that she pulled. When I was 6 years old, she made me do Shave for the Brave and raise money for a kid who had cancer. She raised over $500 on Facebook for this kid and his family, and she ended up keeping all the money from the fundraiser. Also, for anyone who's wondering, the kid is someone that I knew as a baby, but thankfully he is okay and he did recover from the cancer. The last time I spoke to him was a few years ago and he was doing great. She also organized a basketball camp in our hometown for kids. She took registration fees from the parents and then canceled the event and kept all the money, leaving 20 to 30 people without their $200. When she faced backlash, she used that money to take her and her friend to Las Vegas for a month, where she drank a lot and played the casino. She also kept asking for money from my grandparents, and when they cut her off, she threatened to keep me and my sisters from them unless they gave her money. She also stole $400 out of my wallet for groceries, and that money was my birthday money from various family members. And that's what she actually told me. She said it was for groceries when I noticed it was missing. There were no groceries, but there was a good few bottles of wine that she spent the next few days drinking in the garage. She would call into restaurants like McDonald's and say that she had the wrong order when she didn't even order anything, and then just go back and get a free meal. Honestly, there's so much more, but this perfectly describes my mom as a person, which perfectly sums up why I don't talk to her anymore. Wow, your mom literally is a con artist. She has literally stolen from people and taken money by any means necessary. So to that end, I don't blame you for cutting her off, because she does not sound like a good person to be around in the slightest. Am I the jerk for making my colleague work different hours and for not caring about her money after I declined riding with her to work in her car? Because right now I am literally being blamed for something that's not my fault, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So ever since April, I've had to take the train to get to my work. I work from 7 in the morning until 3 o'clock, but I have to get up at 5 in the morning to not be late for my train at 6. I've gotten used to this and I feel no need to ask anybody for a ride. But we have a new coworker who I will call Sarah for the sake of the story, who is really polite and funny, and overall I like her a lot. Sarah is from my town and recently asked me if I would like to drive to her work with her since she has a car and I don't. Now, I have considered it, but because I have a lot of discounts as a student, the cost of taking the train is 4 times less than what I would have to pay if I drove with her. And that's even if we split the cost of gas in half. So I decided to politely decline. Well, here's the issue. This happened 2 weeks ago, and now some of my other colleagues told me that I was the jerk for refusing. I also found out that Sarah talked garbage about me behind my back, all because of this situation. They said that because I refused, she has to pay full price for gas, and she's also young and needs the money. Additionally, as I said, I work from 7 to 3, but my other coworkers work from 8 to 4. If I agreed to drive with Sarah, our boss agreed to let her have work from 7 to 3 as well, which is something that Sarah would prefer. Apparently, I should have taken this into consideration, even though she didn't mention this at all. But honestly, even if she told me about it, I still wouldn't change my mind. I then got accused of making her work different hours on purpose, and for being heartless for making another young woman like me throw away any kind of money. And I think that's so ridiculous. I'm 21 years old and I'm trying to save money for rent. I want to move out of my parents' house next year, and I also pay for my university, so I try to save every penny. Sarah is still trying to convince me to agree, but as for now, I still said no. I feel like Sarah should take the train as well, even though she's not a student and won't get a discount, but even still, it's cheaper than buying gas, because that's what she needs to do if she wants to save money. I'm sure our boss would still let her work from 7 to 3 then, but at the same time, I understand that for Sarah, driving is much more comfortable than taking the train, and she lives further away from the train station than I do. So truly, am I the jerk for not being more accommodating for Sarah? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, that is so annoying because somehow this is your fault. Like, just because Sarah wants to drive to work doesn't mean that you have to go with her just to split the cost. Because you said it yourself, you would be spending more money just to make this happen for her, as opposed to like saving money by going on the train. This really is not your problem, and I just don't blame you for being like, no, I don't want to be a part of this. Also, if I was in your shoes, I would ignore anybody saying that, yeah, you're the jerk for not being more accommodating. It's like, what are you talking about? I don't have to do anything. Just because she has a crappy deal and she's not getting her way doesn't mean that you're not responsible for that. In fact, any of the friends who are like, wow, you need to be more considerate, they can either step up and help Sarah out, or they can get off your back and get a dose of reality, because the way you're being treated right now is really unfair, because quite literally, none of this is your fault. Am I overreacting for banning my sister and her kids from my house after her kids destroy some precious family heirlooms that I can never get back? Because right now I am still incredibly pissed off, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my half-sister came over to my house to visit today, and she brought her 4-year-old twins as well. Well, her, my brother-in-law, and I were having drinks and watching TV, while my nephews were messing around in my basement. At some point while I was talking to my brother-in-law, my sister brought my nephews upstairs and led them into my library. I inherited a set of beautiful leather-bound classics from my grandparents, and I've been adding to that collection for years. Well, at some point, I heard a loud crash and I rushed over to my library. It's there that I found out that my bookshelves toppled over and a massive grape juice stain was all over my carpet and the bottom shelf of the adjacent bookshelf, ruining some of my absolute favorites. Now, luckily, neither of them were hurt by the falling shelf, but man, I honestly have never been angrier. I explicitly told my sister to keep them out of my library when she visited a few months ago. I told my sister she needs to compensate me for all of this, and surprisingly, she actually refused. Now, I will admit I was very short with her, and I said essentially if she didn't pay me there on the spot, her and her kids are banned from my house. Well, she just let out a scoff and they ended up leaving. My dad has been trying to reconcile us for the past few hours, but I am absolutely not having it. The carpet is ruined as well, and it will cost more to replace than the books, but those books belong to my grandparents and they are irreplaceable. I'm honestly just so sad, and right now I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I don't think you're overreacting, because your sister should have been watching her kids. First and foremost, you made it very clear that no, you can't come into my library, and honestly, I don't blame you for a second. Why are kids in there in the first place? There's obviously a lot of expensive stuff in there, not to mention the fact that you have priceless items, stuff that you can't find a replacement for, probably all over the place. So the fact that your sister's like, oh, I'm not paying you back for any of it, and she's refusing to take responsibility for what she did, that in my opinion is so toxic. It really does suck, and it shows that she really doesn't care about your personal belongings. So no, you're not overreacting, because honestly, if I was in your shoes and my nephews had just destroyed something precious to me, I would absolutely ban my family from the house as well, especially if they're unwilling to pay me back for what they destroyed. My terrible manager demands that I don't do any job outside of my job description, but despite the fact that I've taken on so many extra duties at work, work. Simply out of necessity, I decided to maliciously comply, resulting in my department falling apart at the seams. And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at my manager, as that guy absolutely had it coming. Here's what happened. Okay, so I worked in the accounting department at a small business. My boss, who we will call Gary for the sake of the story, was seriously so great, and he gave us a lot of autonomy to get everything done. Now, this was a small business, and over the years, as is pretty common in small businesses, I picked up a number of duties that weren't strictly in my job description, but they were still very important. We also had a number of processes that were not well documented, but we were understaffed and not able to make any real changes. Things were pretty good overall though, and our work flowed well and everyone was happy. Well, not everyone, that is. Gary's boss, who we will call Carl, recently had taken over as president of the company, and he wanted to slash the cost. Gary was one of the highest paid employees, and Carl tried to get him to take a pay cut or just cut his hours. When Gary refused, Carl fired him and shortly replaced him with someone we will call Matt, who was much less experienced and much less qualified. Around this time, I used my leverage with Carl to get a solid raise. I knew Carl would be looking to replace me soon, just like he did Gary, but I was too essential to lose without Gary there either. I figured I had about 6 months, which lined up with right about when I was planning to move out of state anyways. So, knowing that when I did leave, my coworkers would be stuck picking up the slack of my job, specifically all the extra stuff that I picked up that was not documented at all, I started writing a detailed manual for my own job when I had time here and there. I didn't really care for Matt or Carl, but I figured it would save my coworkers a lot of stress. Now, Matt was a poor accountant and a worse manager. He was an awful micromanager with no concept of the bigger picture. Pretty quickly, he noticed that I was spending all this time doing all these other duties that were not in my job description. He told me I was only to work on projects that he assigned to me directly. Well, I tried to point out all the things that would not get done if I didn't do that, but he was having none of it and told me not to worry about it as it wasn't my job. So that's when I decided to maliciously comply, causing problems that I'm sure this guy absolutely couldn't expect. So I agreed wholeheartedly and I said, "Sure thing, boss." I stopped doing anything except what he told me to do. And wouldn't you guess it, the department started falling apart. Customer emails were unanswered, software stopped working with no one to support it, files weren't being organized, etc. I normally took care of these things and 100 other things, but Matt was pretty clear that I'm not to do any of it. I also stopped working on my manual. After a few months of this, but way sooner than I expected, I was laid off by Carl and Matt for budgetary reasons. Now, of course, they listed my job on Indeed that same day for a laughably low salary. I was given no warning and just sat down for a meeting with the two of them and then walked out the door. Matt didn't allow me to take anything from my desk, access anything on my computer, or say my goodbyes to my coworkers. He was also very clear that I was not to retain any company documents or information. So just like that, I left. And I heard from coworkers still there that over the next few weeks, things took an even worse nosedive. They were not able to fill my job, and nobody could cover most of my actual job duties or even any of my extra duties. By this point, vendors weren't being paid and payroll wasn't going out on time, and it was then that I got the call. Matt found the file I had left in a conspicuous spot on the network drive, labeled as Job Manual and Process. This file was encrypted, and I'm sure you can guess what was in it, because this was the draft of my job duties and everything I was responsible for that I literally worked on during my downtime. Now, why was it encrypted? Well, it had a bunch of confidential data and passwords in it. During this conversation on the phone, my boss asked me what the password was, but I said to him, "I'm sorry, boss, I don't know. I didn't retain it after leaving, but you know what? It's in my files." Now, in reality, since it wasn't finished, the manual wasn't going to really help them out of all the company's problems, but I had padded it with a lot of images, so I imagine the file size was pretty attractive, and the password was indeed in my files. I mean, if Matt even cared to look, he would find an unlabeled sticky note with a nondescript string of letters and numbers in a random folder in one of my 24 filing cabinets. As an epilogue to this story, about 3 months after I talked to Matt, Carl ended up firing him after discovering what a disaster the department had become. My coworkers both left around the same time for better opportunities, and still, even after 18 months, Carl has yet to find anyone to fill these jobs. So the entire accounting department is staffed by contractors and consultants, who I am sure are costing the company a fortune. And I even hear the board is looking for a change in company presidents, because the way they let this all fall apart, in my opinion, is completely their own fault. Oh man, I love it when stories like this happen, because this situation absolutely could have been avoided. If they simply let the people who knew what they were doing run things the way that they should, then all of this could have been smooth sailing and things could have gotten done in a timely fashion. So good for you for maliciously complying and literally allowing that place to fall apart, because it sounds like management did not know what they were doing, and in my opinion, they got exactly what they deserved. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for making my cousin's pregnant girlfriend sleep on the couch over Thanksgiving after my mom tried to volunteer me to give up my bed? Because right now my mom is guilt-tripping me and claiming I'm a bad guest, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my aunt hosted Thanksgiving this year at her fairly large house. She was really eager this year to have my mother's family join this year, including me and my sister, her husband, and her kids, because they haven't seen each other in a while. She was insistent that we all stay at her house so that we could spend more time with each other. Now, before I agreed to go, I confirmed with her that I would be able to sleep in a bed in a room with a door that closes. I'm okay with sharing a bed or a room, but I need an actual bed or a room. I am the only one of my siblings or my cousins who is single or childless and child-free. So because of this, historically, I have been regulated to the living room couch or the floor during holidays. It has always sucked. I'm overweight, so I wake up with back pain. I mean, I've had air mattresses deflate on me overnight, all due to a hole that I didn't know about. I can't fall asleep until the younger adult family members finish hanging out at about 1 in the morning, and then I get woken up at 6 in the morning by someone making coffee. People keep on moving my luggage, and I get only a couple hours of bad sleep, and I always wake up in pain. I have pledged to myself that if I wasn't able to get a real bed in an actual room, then I would just get a hotel room. Thanksgiving week arrives, and I'm pleasantly surprised that I was assigned a room, and I got a queen bed all to myself. All of the adults had beds they shared with their significant other, and it was a great first night. But the day before Thanksgiving, my cousin arrives with his girlfriend who is 6 months pregnant as a surprise. He had originally told my aunt he wasn't going to be able to make it because of work, but apparently he just wanted to surprise her. But now there isn't enough beds for everybody. My mother said that I could give up my bed to the couple and sleep on the air mattress in the den, but my aunt insisted I stay in my room. My cousin ended up on the couch and his girlfriend on an air mattress. Well, my mother is now lecturing me about being a bad guest. She thinks I should have insisted that my cousin and his girlfriend take the bed, especially because she is pregnant. So am I the jerk for not giving up the bed? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. This is so stupid. Your mom is literally trying to volunteer you, an adult woman, to sleep on the couch in exchange for people that weren't even planning on being there. That is so unfair, it's not even funny. And it's like, wait a second. If they're so eager to have them sleep on some kind of bed, then why doesn't your mom give up her bed and say, okay, you can sleep on this. I'll sleep on the couch or the air mattress. It is so hypocritical for her to be like, wow, you're a bad guest, while she herself doesn't want to volunteer and make that happen. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, and I'm really glad that your aunt stood up for you, especially while your mother tried to throw you right under the bus. Am I the jerk for shouting at my husband when he came into the room during a timed test that I was taking? Because even though I explained to him that I don't want to be bothered during this time slot, he still decided to come in and ignore my request. And at this point, I seriously don't know if I'm the jerk or not, as he is still incredibly mad at me. Here's what happened. So about 3 months ago, I was laid off from my job in the tech industry. It was unexpected and a big hit for me mentally, as I enjoy working and feeling like I'm good at my job and contributing. I've been working through a resulting identity crisis with my therapist, but I absolutely hate being at home and not having a routine. So I've also been applying far and wide. I've had a couple of interviews, but none have led to an offer just yet. Last week, I was invited to complete a timed written test for a company that I would love to work for. They informed me in advance that the timed test would last an hour and told me the date and time when they would send it to me. I'm someone who gets extremely nervous during interviews and these types of things, and so I spent a lot of time preparing, but I also told my husband that I will need to not be disturbed during the test at all. I asked him to please not walk into the room during the duration of the test at all, and to please not bother me in any way, because I know how stressed I get and how I need maximum focus. And to that end, he reassured me that he understood. Fast forward to the test yesterday, and I was taking it in our second bedroom with the door closed. With about 15 minutes to go, the nerves and stress started to set in, and I was a little frantic trying to finish the task and leave myself time to proofread. Well, that's when my husband walked into the room saying, sorry, just ignore me, ignore me. Well, right away, I said, please get out. And he said to me, oh, just ignore me, I need to grab something really quickly. He then started digging through the drawer of the desk that I was sitting at. That's when I lost my temper and I yelled out, I can't ignore you. I need you to not be standing over me right here. Just please get out. He then left and made a point to slam the door. Afterwards, I came out to apologize to him and explained that I was really stressed out and that I had asked him repeatedly, please stay out of the second bedroom for 1 hour. He then said that he doesn't understand why it's such a big deal and that I massively overreacted by snapping and hurting his feelings. Well, it's been over 24 hours and he is still mad at me. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. That was so unacceptable from him. You told him so many times, listen, for 1 hour, I need you not to be in this room. You can't distract me. You can't do anything to get in the way. Please just stay out. So the fact that he came in anyways and said, oh, sorry, just ignore me. I'm just going to get something real quick. Like, that is so unacceptable, and I don't blame you for getting pissed off. So no, you're not the jerk, because the way your husband acted, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Today, I messed up by knocking on my girlfriend's door while she was incredibly busy with work, because as a result, I'm pretty sure I destroyed my relationship. Here's what happened. Okay, so my girlfriend lives in my apartment complex, and I met her one day in September while I was out walking my dog. We ended up going on a date that same night and pretty much instantly hit it off, and we started hanging out with each other almost every day. We would spend whole days together on weekends, and we did so many fun things together. I really enjoyed her company, and I started falling hard for her. Well, my girlfriend warned me in November that from mid-month to December 15th, she would be unavailable. Now, I thought that meant that I wouldn't be able to see her that often, but I didn't know that it meant communication from her would almost become non-existent. She stopped texting me the usual messages of I miss you or just saying goodnight, handsome. It started going longer between text messaging, and after a week of this, I talked with her and asked if she was okay and if we were okay. She explained that we were okay, but she was just incredibly busy, and all she really has capacity for is work and sleep, and maybe stopping to eat if she's lucky. But she apologized for making me feel anxious and said that she would try. Well, time went on, and it got to be 2 weeks since we had spent any time together. I had gotten to see her a few times for maybe 5 minutes in passing, but then my texts and calls started getting unanswered. She had told me the last time that we were able to speak on the phone that if I ended up getting off early enough on the following Saturday, that I could come over for a bit and we could hang out. Well, I called her that night and it rang to voicemail. I walked my dog when I got home, and when I walked by her apartment, I saw that all of her lights were off. So when I got home, I texted that it looked like she had passed out and that I hope she got some good sleep. Well, I didn't hear back from her for 3 full days. It didn't look to me like her car ever moved out of her driveway. I never saw her lights on passing by her house, and I started getting worried about her because I know she struggles with certain health issues. She is super stressed out and she hates her job, so it seems like she suffers from symptoms of depression. So I texted her just saying I wanted to check in on her and that it makes me feel worried when I don't hear back for this long from her, but still I didn't hear anything that day. By the following day, I was extremely worried about her. I couldn't think about anything else. I reached out to her best friend and I asked her when was the last time that she had heard from her, and she told me it was the prior week. Now, I expressed my worry and said that I wanted to give her space, but that I was getting worried and I was thinking about going to check on her. Her friend told me that 4 days is plenty of space and that I should just go ahead and see what's going on. I went home on my lunch break and I walked right over to her house. My anxiety was in my throat, but it was still dark in her house from what I could see. Her blinds were all closed, but when I knocked on the front door, I got no answer. I rang the doorbell and still got no answer. I knocked again even harder and I rang the doorbell one more time, but still got no answer from inside. I then knocked hard enough that I felt like she would be able to hear it from the bedroom, but still no answer. I had my phone out with her text message up and I started seeing the typing bubble. She messaged me and said, I'm on with a client, please stop knocking. Only she added the F word in the middle of that sentence. Well, I immediately left. I sent a text message saying sorry, I was just really worried about her, and after I thought more about it, I added a little later on that I realized I went overboard with the knocking and that I really was sorry. It went another full day and I still didn't hear back from her. I talked to my father, who said it doesn't seem like she is communicating or treating you very well. I told him I just wanted to talk to her and that I had half a mind to go knock on her door now at night and just talk to her and let her know what is going on in my mind, but I was worried about looking crazy or ruining things further. He then asked me how much things would change from how things had been going, because at least if I did this, I could talk with her and I would have some kind of answer. So I wrote a text telling her that I was going to stop by in 5 minutes to chat for just a little bit and that it was really important that we talked. So I went over and I rang the doorbell, but still there was no answer. So I went home and I wrote a text message telling her how much I liked her and how this whole situation was making me feel, how I was feeling like I was being ignored and being treated less less than, how I needed some kind of communication, how a single text every once in a while would go such a long way. I told her this wasn't a "you need to call me tonight or it's over" kind of thing, but I said that I needed to hear from her. I woke up the following morning to see that she had sent me a long text message at around 4 in the morning, telling me how busy she has been, which I absolutely knew, how she has barely had capacity to even get to her desk, and that she's been working 14-hour days, and that she is just crashing when she's done. She was also telling me that she had already explained to me that she would be unavailable, and she said coming to her door while she was working and banging on the door was incredibly uncalled for. She said her car had clearly been moved, and that me doing that while I knew she would be unavailable and while she was working during work hours is a hard line for her. Well, I didn't know that unavailable meant zero contact or even being able to see her at all. But regardless, in one fell swoop, I ended my relationship with someone I cared deeply about. And it all comes down to the fact that I couldn't get a grip on my anxiety and just be patient. Okay, I gotta be honest, I think you're being way too hard on yourself. Your girlfriend's acting like a weirdo and there is no excuse for this behavior. You mean to tell me that her being unavailable means that she can't send you a simple text message of some kind? I mean, come on, that is ridiculous. There's no excuse for that behavior. I don't care how busy she was. Because I've worked 14-plus-hour days before. Sure, they're busy, but it doesn't take that much to send a text message, or at least respond to somebody, especially if I wanted to respond to that person. So for her to be like, "Wow, I told you I wouldn't be available," it's like, what are you talking about? This isn't you being unavailable. This is you literally dropping off the face of the earth and ghosting your boyfriend. Like, what is her problem? Are you kidding me right now? You mean you can't take 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, to talk to your boyfriend at the end of the day? Like, if I hated my job and I was stressed out, talking to my significant other absolutely would calm me down. That would make me feel way better and probably help me sleep better. So the fact that she's like, "Wow, this is a hard line for me," that is so crazy to me, because you know what's a hard line for literally everybody else in the world? Basic communication. Crazy, right? It's almost like you have to talk to people and explain what's going on in your life, instead of, oh, I don't know, ghosting everybody and being like, "Wow, I can't believe you showed up." Because the original poster's right. For all intents and purposes, something terrible could have happened. No one's heard from you for like literally a week. You're not responding to anybody, all under the guise that you're working 14-hour days. And I'm not sure what job you're working, but unless you're pulling in a ton of money from overtime hours, or you're some kind of like high-level CEO that needs to be available all the time, then there's truly no reason for her not to take any time to talk to you. Because if she really wanted to talk to you, she absolutely would have. So no, I don't think you did anything wrong in this story. You were being a responsible boyfriend, and you were trying to reach out to somebody that you cared about. And the fact that she did not reciprocate, in my opinion, is not your fault in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not getting my coworker's coffee, who was originally my friend, but has slowly drifted out of my friend group and is now only a coworker? Here's what happened. So I started this job a month after my coworker, and we became very good acquaintances. Over the next 6 months, I thought we were becoming friends. We were hanging out, we were having lunch, we were walking to our cars together, and we were interacting on social media. But I noticed he only texted during work hours and never initiated contact outside of work. So I dialed back and I kept it professional. When I started full-time school with in-person classes, they all stopped inviting me to hang out as much. Now, to be honest, at first it hurt, but I realized I was busy and couldn't expect them to always include me. I figured this was just a work friendship and I just let it go. After that, they really didn't reach out. And then he got a promotion, moved departments, and became a lot busier. So we barely talk now, just brief surface-level interactions. And I understand that this happens, but it is important for the context. Now here's where the main issue comes into play. When I first started, he had a Friday coffee tradition with another coworker. He invited me and the three of us started going weekly. This continued for months until we drifted apart. Well, around then, he skipped coffee because he was sick and then he was too busy. We picked it up for him a couple of times and he paid us back, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But after his promotion, he stopped coming altogether, and it felt weird to keep asking if he wanted coffee since we weren't close anymore. Well, one week after several weeks of him saying no, I assumed that he didn't want any, and so I just didn't even bother asking. He then texted later on, stating how upset he was that we didn't check with him. Now, I felt bad at first, but then I thought about how he had stopped inviting me to things. How was it fair for him to feel slighted when he had done the same thing? If the roles were reversed, I would never expect someone to get my coffee. I would text them my order ahead of time, ask if it was okay, and then I would pay up front. But he didn't do any of that. We would have to ask, wait for his response, although it would be sometimes delayed, buy it for him, and then wait for the money. And this last time, he didn't even pay me back. But truly, it's not about money, but instead, it's about feeling like DoorDash. I wouldn't mind doing it if it meant connection or having a good conversation, but lately he just says thank you, takes the coffee, and then gets back to work. I get that he's busy, but if you're too busy to connect, why expect others to go out of their way for you? Maybe I'm being dramatic, but it feels like I'm being used. More than that, I'm sad that I lost a potential friend. These work relationships mean a lot to me, especially as a neurodivergent person, since they're often my main source of connection during the day. I don't want things to be awkward, but I also don't want to feel like a personal delivery service. He can get defensive when confronted, so I worry that this will blow up. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, honestly, I don't think you're the jerk because I think this guy absolutely was using you. He saw you as an easy way to get coffee and nothing more. So the fact that he's trying to get upset that you didn't ask him after he's basically cut you out of his life, in my opinion, is really weird and completely unnecessary. I caught my entitled ex-girlfriend cheating on me after we've been together for 11 years, and now that we're broken up, she's demanding that I fund her new lifestyle with her new boyfriend by paying for all of her bills, as well as moving out of my own house so that she and her new boyfriend can get back on their feet. But once I say no to her and tell her that I'm not gonna do that, things escalate in a way that I honestly never expected. Here's what happened. Okay, so I found out that my girlfriend of 11 years was cheating on me with an unemployed dude of all people. I'm not rich, but I provide her a good lifestyle, and I paid for most of her bills. I also provided a nice place for her to live. I paid for her nails and hair to be done regularly, and we had dates every single weekend with couple vacations every year. Now she got used to that lifestyle and wanted to keep living it despite cheating with a broke dude. She didn't admit to the cheating, but I caught on to it. And once it was clear I was done with her, the entitlement really started to show. She said because I had family in the area and she didn't, I should be the one to move out, but I should also continue paying the bills to give her and the new guy a chance to get on their feet. She also insisted on keeping my dogs and told me I could only see my own dogs if I asked the new guy. But since they didn't have any money, I needed to continue paying for food and veterinarian bills. Well, instead of those weird demands, I kicked her out and I kept my dogs. Now at that point, she was angry and still felt entitled to my income. After I kicked her out of my place, she claimed she was forced to quit her job because I forced her to relocate, and then she tried to sue me for lost wages, which did not work out in her favor. I mean, you would think that she'd stop at this point, but she didn't. She contacted my work and threatened to sue them, stating that their employee's action was costing her everything, and tried to insist that they settle outside of court with her for $100,000, which by the way, she didn't even make that much money. But instead, my work filed harassment charges against her. Now you would think she would stop at that point, but she still didn't. She started messaging every family member of mine that she could find, told them I cost her everything out of spite just because she moved on with someone else, and that the least they could do is send her money to help her get a place and pay rent. When that didn't work, she went online and begged for people to send money to her Cash App so that she can get the help she needs with a place to live. And she even claimed that this was a domestic violence situation. Now, I don't understand how she doesn't understand that any financial support I gave her would end if she cheated on me. We were not married and we don't have any kids. I've supported her for years, so I owe her nothing. So I really don't owe it to her to help her out with her new relationship and getting them on their feet and establishing themselves, which surprisingly somehow comes as a shock to her, despite the fact that she literally ruined everything. Oh man, this entitled girlfriend is insane if she thought she could seriously get away with this. So let me get this straight. She had a boyfriend who was clearly very well off, and she decided to cheat on him with someone who was broke, while also still expecting the original poster to like fund her life, as well as move out of his house and give up his dogs? Like, what are you talking about? That is crazy talk. She was with you for 11 years too. Like, you had that level of crazy right next to you for that long, and you probably had no idea that she would do something like that. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, but I'm also so glad that you got away from her, because she clearly thought she could get away with this in some kind of way. And that, in my opinion, is so incredibly dumb. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister's husband basically stole a TV during a Black Friday sale, and right now I'm realizing I'm the only one in the family who has a problem with this. So at this point, I'm wondering if I'm overreacting because this situation has seriously upset me. Here's what happened. Okay, so this just happened during Black Friday, and I'm honestly still processing it. My sister and her husband, who we will call Mike, went to Walmart for their Black Friday sale. According to them, it was absolute chaos. There were hundreds of people everywhere. There were barely any workers, and it was a total mess. Mike managed to grab one of the doorbuster deals, a huge 65-inch TV that was marked down from $899 to $399. Apparently, the checkout lines were so insane that people just started walking out, like literally just pushing their carts through without paying because there weren't enough workers at the registers and security couldn't handle it. And you know what? My sister and Mike joined them. They walked out with a $400 TV because apparently everybody else was doing it, and according to them, the store should have been better prepared. The part that really bothers me is that they were bragging about it at a family dinner yesterday, and this is right in front of their kids and my kids. They were laughing about their amazing deal like it was some funny story about outsmarting the system. I pulled my sister aside and told her this was basically stealing, and it sets a terrible example for the kids. She then got defensive, saying I'm being dramatic, and that big stores expect this kind of loss during sales, and that it is not really stealing because the store couldn't handle their own sale properly. Mike then jumped in saying I need to chill out, and that I'm probably jealous I didn't get any of their supposed deals. I'm honestly disgusted by the whole thing. Later, my kids were asking me if it's okay to not pay for stuff when stores are really busy, which just proves my point about what message this sends. My sister hasn't talked to me ever since I called her out, and my parents are saying that I should apologize for making drama, and that this is somehow none of my business, but I really feel like someone needs to say something. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. No, you are not overreacting. I hate people who steal, and this is honestly like straight up thievery. And I know for a fact if my sibling was bragging about stealing a TV from like some kind of store, I would be losing my mind on them. I would be like, wait a second, why would you do that? Because you proved it yourself. This sets a horrible precedent for the other kids in the room. And the fact that your sister was trying to justify this as if the store was ready for this kind of loss, like that is crazy to me, and there is no good excuse for that. So no, you're definitely not overreacting, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. My manager complains that I need to start clocking out on time, despite the fact that the person who's supposed to relieve my night shift keeps showing up late. So now I've decided to maliciously comply, showing my manager once and for all how stupid their rules are. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I work overnights at a well-known gym franchise that I will not name. My typical shift is from 10 o'clock p.m. until 6 o'clock in the morning. Usually, there is always supposed to be 2 people on the night shift together, but lately my coworkers have been calling off a lot, causing me to be in the gym alone all night. My coworker, let's call her Sam, comes in at 6 o'clock in the morning when I get off. Well, here's the problem. Sam doesn't usually come in on time, and she is usually always 10 to 15 minutes late. So onto the problem at hand. Because Sam comes in late, I tend to have to stay clocked in past 6 o'clock in the morning. Additionally, since I'm usually alone at night, I can't get any important tasks done until Sam comes in. My boss noticed my time cards and got very upset that I haven't been clocking out right at 6 o'clock in the morning. He made me feel awful, despite constantly being on the blunt end of all his scheduling messes. So I told him, okay, I'll start leaving exactly at 6 o'clock. So that's what I've been doing. I've been leaving the gym entirely unattended until somebody gets there, and most of the time, no one does for a while. So now members are confused, and my manager doesn't know what to do, considering he's the one who scolded me for staying past 6 o'clock. He thought that I would just clock out and stay off the clock, but seriously, why would I do that? I was not going to take the fall for someone else consistently being late. The best part about it is that he won't fire me or write me up, because technically speaking, this is exactly what he wanted. Yeah, I can't stand managers who act like this, who complain about a problem that they are literally causing. Like seriously, why on earth is Sam still working there? If she can't show up on time and do her job, then she's gotta go and you've gotta find somebody who will. Like seriously, what a massive waste of time and energy. So it also just doesn't make sense to me that the original poster is catching any heat for this, because they're not the problem. They're willing to stay until Sam decides to like go in for work. But here your boss is being like, wow, I can't believe you stayed past 6. You better stop that right now and clock out when you're supposed to. So I really love the way the original poster handled this, because this really did shove it right back in their manager's face. An entitled client claims that my company is moving too fast when we're doing our job, stating that we were being unsafe of all the people around us and that we needed to slow down. So we decided to maliciously comply, resulting in us taking nearly 3 weeks on a job that could have taken 4 days. And I've honestly never felt better about putting somebody in their place. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened about 2 years ago. I work in construction, but more specifically, I cut concrete. A lot of people aren't familiar with my job, but all you really need to know is that I don't pour any concrete. I use big diesel and hydraulic powered saws to cut and remove it. Now, I work for a relatively small company of about 15 people, and we are the company to use for concrete cutting and removal in our area. I was the first employee hired at this company, and my bosses are amazing. They've been in this industry industry for about 25 to 30 years respectively. We will call them Brad and Cody for the sake of the story. They know what they're doing, and they still get out and work in the field and will outwork any of our employees. We were awarded a no-bid contract at a very large facility to cut and remove a very large section of their outdoor slab because it had cracked. Now, this was routine for us. We could do it in our sleep, but it was still a large project. The reason we were given the contract but not held to a number was because they wanted it done right and fast, and they knew that we were the guys to do this even though we aren't always the cheapest. The customer also requested us to bring extra equipment and specialized saws just in case, and trust me, this will be important later on. The day comes that we're supposed to start, and they wanted us on site at 6:30 in the morning for a safety meeting. Brad and Cody went out while I stayed back to get my crews ready for the day, all before heading out to meet them. When I arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning, they were still standing by their trucks just talking. I asked them how the safety meeting went, and they said that no one had shown up yet. Well, finally, they got there at around 9 o'clock in the morning and didn't even acknowledge that they were late. We met the guy who was in charge of the project, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him John. John said during the safety meeting that there would always be a few people around from his company to watch us while we worked. We figured it was weird, but honestly, no big deal. We ran a routine safety meeting after, and it was now time to work. Well, we got about a third of the project completed in one day. Now, the entire time we were working, there were no less than 25 people standing around watching us work. We kept joking with them to just set up bleachers, as it would be easier to watch that way. They made us call it quits at about 4 o'clock p.m. so that they could go home. Right about this time, we started to figure there was something up with these guys. They didn't care that we didn't get started until late, and they wanted us to end early, yet a big part of us being there was to get it done fast. Either way, we figured we would still be able to get it done in about 3 days and make record time for a project of this size, all while making a fair amount of money for ourselves. The next morning, as we were getting ready to head out for the day, Brad received an email. The email said, "While we can tell that your company are master operators with their machines, we feel as if they are operating in an unsafe manner by running multiple machines at once and request that they slow down to maintain safe working conditions. They also didn't try to make sure our supervisors felt that they were safe throughout the day." Now, when Brad read this, he was pissed. We were called in to get things done fast, and not once had we done a single thing that could be considered unsafe. When we got to the job that day for the safety meeting, Brad changed from saying, "Oh, screw these guys, they don't know anything about what we're doing," all the way over to say, "Okay, we're going too fast, then we will slow it right down for them." At the safety meeting, John, who's the same guy who sent the email, he looked at us and said, "Okay, everyone knows what we're doing, so let's get it done." He tried to end the safety meeting with that, but that's when my boss spoke up and said to him, "Hold on, since no one's man enough to tell us in person and just want to hide behind their emails, let's get this straight. We're going too fast and we're unsafe for you?" When Brad said this, John became visibly uncomfortable. He then stammered out, "Well, there was a lot of people standing around and watching you yesterday, and I just felt that someone would get hurt if they decided to get closer to watch." Now, I had set up safety cones with red danger tape strung between it and told no one to cross. We had taken proper safety precautions. If they didn't feel comfortable to have that many people watch, then maybe don't have that many people standing there watching and literally doing nothing. All Brad said to them was, "Okay, we will be real slow, and if someone crosses our line, we shut the site down for an hour for another safety meeting." And it was at this point we decided to cue our malicious compliance. As we started our day, something to note about our saws, our tractors, and other heavy equipment is that we have the ability to turn up the idle, or in other words, we can turn up or down the speed of the motors. So instead of everything moving normally and how it should, which is relatively fast, everything is moving at a turtle speed. Brad told us all that if we ever speed up our machines, then he would kick us off the job. Even Cody, his business partner. I was cutting with our saw, while Cody was in the excavator to remove the pieces that I cut, with Brad in the skid steer to haul the pieces to the dump truck. I would cut the concrete into 6 foot by 6 foot pieces, which would normally take me about 20 to 30 minutes, but it was taking upwards of about 3 hours for one piece. Then, after I would cut it, Cody in the excavator would turn his machine on, slowly turn and stop, and then, as excruciatingly slow as possible, move the stuff that he needs to move, and then shut down his machine, all without idling up. Then Brad would start his machine and repeat the same process to load into the dump truck. So basically, you get the point. It was painfully slow. After the first piece was ready to be pulled out and Cody started the process, John, who was just sitting on the sideline pale-faced, crossed over my line to ask if we were really serious, at which point Brad screamed for us to shut down and we all stepped away for an hour for a safety meeting. John crossed the line 3 times in the first day and 8 times total throughout the project. while his employees never once crossed the danger line. So basically, John was effectively the only person that he had to worry about in his email about getting too close and being in danger. John just kept saying to us,
"No way you guys are serious. What happened to what you were doing yesterday? You were so much more efficient."
Brad then just said, "I have it in writing that you felt unsafe, so the remainder of this project will be operating at a safe pace." Well, this ended up taking about 3 weeks to finish at that horrible speed instead of the 3 to 4 days at full speed. Now, the best part about all of this, the head of the facility came out to see what was taking us so long, and we showed him the email, and he himself agreed with what we were doing. He told us that he hates John and that he's insufferable to work around. He said the success of this project is directly tied to John's yearly bonus. He asked how much we were charging them, and we told him that per piece of equipment and truck, as well as the saw that we use, we're billing them by the hour, and that John had requested that we have nearly double the amount of equipment than we actually needed or used. The facility head just laughed and said, "Fantastic. I will make sure that you're paid in full. Don't go easy on us with the bill." So that's how we maliciously complied our way into charging about $200,000 for a job that should have realistically only been worth about $45,000. I even got a solid $20,000 bonus because Brad and Cody are fantastic bosses, and they knew that we were making a killing on that job. Wow, that's a good example of maybe you should just keep your mouth shut if you don't know what's actually going on, because John in this story absolutely just put his foot in his mouth. For starters, literally nobody on the site was doing anything dangerous, so the fact that John would be like, "Wow, you guys are moving a little fast for me. Maybe slow things down and be more careful." And it's like, dude, you literally don't know what you're talking about, and you yourself are only gonna get in the way. So truly, I find this story fantastic because sometimes this is what it takes, because people like John make working environments absolutely a nightmare to deal with. Am I the jerk for not allowing my husband's friend to bring her dog to our Thanksgiving dinner? Because right now she is freaked out and claimed that she will no longer be showing up. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband asked if we could host Thanksgiving this year. We usually don't host because our apartment is small and we don't really have any guest parking, but he was really excited. We used to host events at our old place and it was a lot of fun. Most of our guests are friends, and everyone agreed to bring a dish. One of his friends, let's call her Chelsea, volunteered to make the turkey. On Thanksgiving Day, one of his friends asked if she could bring her cat, and I said no pets because, as I mentioned, we live in a small apartment, and this is a dinner gathering. I didn't think it would be comfortable for anyone, including the pets. My husband suggested that we also let Chelsea know about our no pet policy, and I agreed with him. I was a bit hesitant though, because Chelsea is one of those people who likes to bring her dog everywhere, and if she can't bring the dog, then she arranges for a dog sitter. Now, in the past, she has caused some tension when her dog wasn't allowed at other events. I told my husband to text her to check if she was planning on bringing her dog, as I didn't think that it would be a good idea. I also offered to talk to her myself because my husband isn't as comfortable with confrontations. He texted her and she called afterwards. He then put her on speakerphone, and I could tell that she was upset from the tone in her voice. Chelsea told me that she always brings her dog everywhere, and I pointed out that wasn't entirely true, since we've been to several events where she did not bring the dog, which is true by the way. She then asked why we hadn't mentioned this before the invitation, and I explained that I didn't think it was necessary to mention it, since I assumed it was understood that bringing pets to a dinner without asking isn't typical, especially when we don't have any pets ourselves. At this point, she got upset and said to us, "Well, I guess you'll have Thanksgiving without a turkey then." When she said this, I was surprised, because it felt like she was trying to pressure me into letting her bring the dog, implying that she wouldn't come without it. I don't like being pressured, especially in my own home, so I calmly responded that I was sorry she felt that way. She then immediately said, "No, I feel sorry for you, since you won't have a turkey," and then she hung up on us. So am I the jerk for saying no to her bringing her dog? I feel like I was setting a reasonable boundary, but now I'm second guessing myself and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk here. Chelsea is being so overdramatic. You live in a small apartment. It's not like you have all this room for people to come around, especially her dog. And by the way, this is not going to be an all-day event. Just leave the dog at home and then come yourself. Like, it really isn't that hard. And the fact that she's like, "Okay, well, enjoy Thanksgiving without a turkey then," to me that shows exactly how immature she really is. And in my opinion, I think you dodged a train with this lady. So no, you're not the jerk for setting this boundary, because in my opinion, this seriously is not that big of a deal. My girlfriend blocked every girl on my Instagram while I was in the shower, and now I'm honestly so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I started dating in February and moved in together in October. I don't really have anything worth keeping secret from her, so I'm comfortable leaving my phone around knowing that she knows my past password. I noticed this morning that my Instagram follower count was off and noticed that every female was unfollowed or even blocked. Now these were all coworkers and friends I made in the army, as well as some family friends. Well, I confronted her and she started crying and blaming it on trust issues. I have never cheated in any relationship, and I do my best to maintain mutual trust. I've been thinking all day while she's at work, and I feel like she broke my trust permanently. She also doesn't let me play video games with my male friends anymore because she apparently feels left out. So right now, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Oh boy, this is definitely a weird one. For starters, what your girlfriend is doing is unbelievably toxic. The women that you're following on Instagram are not people you're gonna cheat on her with. They are literally coworkers and family friends and like friends you made in the army. You know, people you're not gonna have any kind of relationship with. So that first and foremost is already pretty weird, but it's the fact that she's not allowing you to play video games with your guy friends, all because she feels left out. Like that for me is a massive red flag that I cannot ignore for a second, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like she's trying to isolate you from everybody. And I really think she's just lying when she's like, oh, I feel left out of your gaming sessions. It's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Because let's flip the script for a second. If she had some activity with her girlfriends and you suddenly stepped in and said, wait, you can't do that, I feel left out. Or if you even went on her Instagram account and blocked and unfollowed every guy that she's following, like that literally would be so crazy it's not even funny. So yeah, the way your girlfriend's acting is really weird, and in my opinion, you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. My toxic ex-friend kicks me out of a club we shared together by claiming that I was being problematic despite the fact that I didn't do anything. But now after they realize my absence is seriously ruining their club, they're demanding that I come back and help them in the same way as when I was a full-fledged member, screaming that it's not fair that all the benefits I brought to the club are gone all because I got kicked out. Because right now I am incredibly frustrated. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I'm a 21-year-old male and I've been a part of my university's music club for a little more than a year up until this September. I first auditioned as a guitarist and I got in around September of 2023. And because of the connections I've made in the music scene here, since I've been involved in the music industry since I was about 14 years old, I help provide certain things for free that weren't available to the club before. Stuff like sound engineers, studio time, access to certain events, etc. And I agreed to do this with the board at the time and decided to keep my involvement on the low as it would undermine the board a bit and it might cause some kind of problems. Well, the issue started when a new board member was elected this semester, and it just so happens that the new president is someone that belongs to the same friend group within the club, which ended up breaking up and we fell into two different sides. We will be calling her Emma to make things easier. As soon as Emma got elected, she decided to kick us out for being problematic, and that was that. At first, I thought about cutting them off right after I was out, but some of my friends were still part of the club and already had performances planned, and I didn't want to ruin it for them. So I waited until the first event was done around late October, and I talked to my contacts, and I told them that I would no longer be working with that club, and I thanked them for all the help. Well, about a week after that, I got a call from the old president who told me that Emma called her and asked for her to talk to the sound engineers as they didn't want to talk to them anymore and they aren't interested in working with them. And that's when she told them about our deal. Well, sure enough, I got an email that afternoon saying that I'm invited to a meeting with the board to discuss club activities that I've been involved in for the past year. To not go into what ended up being a 2-hour meeting, they basically asked me for help and said that they can't keep the club running without it, as it would cost them a lot of money that they don't have, and they also said that they are willing to have me back, but I straight up said no. The following week, word got out, and I was bombarded with messages from members of the club telling me that it's not fair for me to punish them for what the board members did to me. My friends that were still in the club and the ones that were kicked out with me are all on my side, though I can feel that some of them are disappointed that they won't be able to perform anymore. I do believe that since I'm not in the club anymore, I don't have to provide any help to them, but hearing the members' reaction and seeing my friends react that way as well makes me feel like maybe I'm the jerk here. So truly, am I the jerk for not wanting to help out any longer? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Wow, this is incredible because seriously, the audacity of these people to ask for your help after they literally kicked you out of their club is unbelievable. Like for starters, it really seems like you got kicked out for dumb reasons. Like they're just sitting there like, oh yeah, you're being problematic, so you have to go. And then they try to act like, well, we need your help in getting this off the ground, otherwise people can't perform. And it's like, I'm sorry, don't expect anything out of me when you kick me out of your club. Like the original poster clearly brought in a lot of connections to this club, and it allowed people to actually have a chance to perform and do all kinds of stuff. So for them to kick you out and then guilt trip you you into making sure your contacts still help them out. Like, that is so selfish and entitled, it's not even funny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Emma and the rest of her stupid friends are complete morons. And the fact that they would even ask you for help after the way they completely screwed you over, in my opinion, says a lot about them. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister after she put her phone on Do Not Disturb and left her first grader at school without picking him up? Because right now I am very upset with her, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so today at 4:00 p.m., my nephew's elementary school called me. He's 7 years old and in the first grade. Apparently, he had been left at school for about 40 minutes after dismissal, and the office said they couldn't reach anyone on his emergency contact list. They then asked me if I could get in touch with his parents, namely my sister and her husband. I tried calling both of them, but their phones were on Do Not Disturb. The calls would ring once and go straight to voicemail, which was odd because their phones should usually ring a few times before going to voicemail. Since neither of them was rechargeable, I got concerned and decided to go pick up my nephew myself. While I was on my way there, I kept trying to call my sister. She finally called me back about 90 minutes after when the school first tried to reach her, and she was saying that her and her husband had just been napping. And when she said this, I was furious. It felt incredibly irresponsible for them to leave their child stranded at school and silence their phones, especially as parents of a young child and a toddler. Her excuse was that her husband had asked her grandparents to pick up my nephew, but there was a miscommunication. I told her that even if that was the plan, she shouldn't have put her phone on Do Not Disturb because emergencies like this can still happen. Well, her response really shocked me. She said she likes putting her phone on Do Not Disturb during naps, and if I was going to react this way, she would remove me from my nephew's emergency contact list. She also added that I was the last contact on the list anyways because her in-laws, namely the grandparents, were listed first. She then accused me of overreacting, saying that normal people wouldn't get angry about something like this. She even mentioned that she's made a lot of new friends this year and now understands how normal people act. Now, I found this insulting because I was the only one responsible enough to answer the school's call and make sure her child was safe. She continued justifying herself, saying it's normal not to answer their phones if they're busy at work or in meetings. But she insisted that having her phone on Do Not Disturb was necessary because she takes naps with a toddler and she needs complete silence. By the end of the conversation, she tried to make me feel like I was in the wrong for being upset. She said I had a right to be concerned, but no right to be angry or yell at her. She then added that she doesn't like spending time with family because there's always an argument when she talks to us, and this left me completely baffled. Instead of showing any gratitude for my help, she threw backhanded insults at me, even though I was the one who ensured her child's safety. Her reaction made me question whether I was wrong to be upset, but I still feel her behavior was irresponsible and ungrateful. So am I the jerk for making sure her kid was picked up from school? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh man, if this was my sister, I would be furious with her right now. You mean to tell me she would rather take a nap than actually pick her kid up from school? Like, what is going on right now? Not to mention the fact that she put it on Do Not Disturb. Like, that is so irresponsible, it's not even funny. So no, you're not the jerk for yelling at your sister, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for refusing to make Starbucks drinks for my family on Thanksgiving after my mom announced in the middle of our dinner that I would make a bunch of desserts for all of my family members? Because after I said no, she got really upset, claiming that I embarrassed her after she went out of her way to buy all these supplies. And now I don't know what to do and I feel incredibly frustrated. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 28-year-old female and I worked at Starbucks for a little over 2 years. And ever since then, my family has loved asking me to recreate their favorite drinks at home. I don't mind doing it once in a while, but it's not exactly my favorite thing, especially because I don't have all the equipment or supplies that Starbucks has. This Thanksgiving, my mom hosted dinner and invited a bunch of extended family. After we finished eating, she casually announced, "Okay everyone, my daughter will be making Starbucks drinks for dessert." And when she said this, I was completely blindsided. Apparently, she had bought a bunch of syrups, a bunch of whipped cream, and even a little espresso machine just for this. When I said I didn't really feel like making drinks for 15 people, my mom got super annoyed. She said to me, "It's not that hard for you. You used to do this all the time at work." A few of my cousins then started chiming in too, saying it would be fun and they would help out. But I didn't come to Thanksgiving to play barista for the entire family, so I decided to stand my ground. Well, my mom is now upset, saying I embarrassed her after she went out of her way to buy all the supplies. Some of my family thinks I was being selfish and that it wouldn't have taken that long, but I just wanted to enjoy the holiday and not work for it. So am I I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, seriously, I don't think you're the jerk at all. If your mom really wanted you to do this, then she really should have asked you ahead of time. The fact that she dropped this on you in front of everybody not only put you in a weird spot, but it also forced you into a lose-lose situation. If you give in and do this for everybody, then guess what? You had to be the barista for Thanksgiving. And clearly this is not something you want to do. But also, if you choose not to do it, then your mom's gonna freak out in the way that she did. And she's gonna be like, wow, you embarrassed me. But seriously, I think it's the other way around. I think she embarrassed you and put you on the spot, when all she had to do was ask you ahead of time, and I'm sure you could have figured something out. Because I know for me, I would much rather be prepared for something like that than to have it dropped on me last second and have everyone be like, oh yeah, you can do it. Let's make all these desserts for all of us. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because I think the way that your mom treated you is incredibly unfair. Am I the jerk for refusing to invite my fiance's childhood friend after we found out that she's been actively talking garbage about my marriage, claiming that I'm ugly, that my husband can do better than me, while also accusing me of cheating? Because right now I feel very hurt and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently got engaged to my fiance, who we will call Matt, and we are in the process of planning our wedding. When the topic of the guest list came up, I told him that I would not be okay with inviting his friend, who we will call Melissa. Now, to give some backstory, Melissa's family and my fiance's family have been super close since they were toddlers. And although I might sound like an insecure girlfriend right now, I'd like to think that I have a valid reason to dislike her. To give some backstory, I met Matt and Melissa when we were teenagers working at a summer job. I became very close to the both of them and eventually started falling for Matt. Melissa was aware of this, as we would always discuss it, and she would say how cute she thinks it would be if it worked out. Melissa eventually moved away for college, and Matt and I became official shortly after she left. Whenever we would post on social media, she would be quick to comment and like everything. And whenever she was back in town, we would have dinners with both of their families, and she would always say how happy she is for us. Well, upon recent events, I discovered from several credible sources that she has been saying things about me. She would say stuff like, Matt can do better, she is so ugly and they just won't last. I bet she's cheating on him. When I told my fiance about this, he cut her off but did not confront her. He said it was for the sake of their parents and siblings to not cause any drama. Now, I was hurt that he didn't stand up for me, but I also chose to respect his wishes and keep it away from everyone else. But when it comes to my wedding, I think I have an excuse to be a little selfish, since it is half about me. Why would I invite someone who secretly spites our relationship? When his mom found out about all of this, she didn't outwardly say that she wanted me to change my mind, but she did try and persuade me by saying, oh, just be the bigger person, and show them that her words mean absolutely nothing to you. And she does have a point that Melissa's absence will be noticed by many, and it will raise some questions. I don't want drama and I don't want gossip, but at the same time, it hurts my morals to invite someone just to please others. So am I the jerk for not wanting to invite this lady? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I don't blame you for a second for not wanting to invite this lady to your wedding. She's actively disparaging your relationship with Matt. She's literally saying, oh, she's ugly and I bet she's cheating on him. And it's like, what are you talking about? She is clearly upset that you landed Matt while she got left in the dust. So now she's talking badly about you behind your back, and it's like, wait a second, how is this fair? Because think about the alternative here. Why should you have to put up with that garbage at your wedding? Because truly, if I knew that someone was talking badly about my future relationship, and then suddenly they think they're entitled to show up at my wedding, like, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen for a second. There's no way. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation, because honestly, I would have done the exact same thing. My girlfriend broke up with me because I broke my ankle, as she now views me as less of a man because I broke my ankle, and that she wants her future children to have strong bones, and that she's disappointed in my genetics. And now at this point, I feel completely devastated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my girlfriend and I are 19 years old. We've been in a relationship for about a year now, and last week I fell down my stairs and broke my ankle, and my girlfriend was at the top of the stairs witnessing all of this. Actually, this is the first time I've broken a bone or even fallen down a set of stairs. I had my shoes on and I just wasn't paying attention, and trust me, I'm never gonna do that again. However, as soon as I fell, my girlfriend turns around, puts her hands on her head and shook her head and acts disappointed. We went to the hospital to get it checked out, and it turns out I had fractured my ankle at the joint. So right now I'm in crutches and the bone is supposed to heal in about 6 weeks. However, since this happened about a week ago, I noticed my girlfriend increasing her distance from me, talking to me less and all this other stuff. So I asked if everything was okay, and that's when she opened up. She said she doesn't feel safe with me anymore and doesn't see me as a big tough man. She didn't think my bones would break like that, because in her mind I was invincible and I would always be there to protect her, but I can't do that anymore, or it'll be to a less extent. Also, she wants kids who have strong bones, and she's disappointed in my genetics genetics. I honestly don't even know what to do at this point. I'm quite devastated. And I do see her viewpoint, but I really think it's too harsh. And I know that everyone's gonna say that I dodged a train, but apart from that, I really don't know what to do. Oh my god, this is the funniest thing on planet Earth. She really thinks that because you broke your ankle, that somehow means that you're less of a man?
I just can't believe that your bones would break like that. I want my kids to have strong bones.
It's like, what are you talking about, lady? Anybody can break a bone. Literally anybody. So for her to be like, wow, I need someone with strong bones. I'm sure the original poster has strong bones, just as strong as any other 19-year-old, but falling down a flight of stairs might be one of those scenarios where it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how strong your bones are, they're probably gonna break. So when you say that you dodged a train, oh, trust me, you absolutely did. If you could run, I would say run from this lady as fast as possible, but since you're on crutches, I would say hobble. You should hobble away from this nut job as fast as possible, because her rationale for breaking up with you is absolutely insane. Not even delusional from a stupid teenager, but just literally crazy talk, because you absolutely deserve way better than this. Am I the jerk for ruining our family dinner after a comment was made by my mom about my smile? Because right now I feel incredibly hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we're currently on a family vacation. It's myself, my husband, the 2 kids, and my parents. Now for a little background, my mother is odd, and my dad has commented as long as I can remember that she and I are like oil and water. I can't even put her oddness completely into words, other than to say that she feels competitive over my father's attention, not even with just me, but also with her grandsons. If my father wants to read them a story or tuck them into bed, she interrupts and tells him it's time for him to go to sleep. It's incredibly cringy to watch. The other pertinent fact is that I have chronic pain. Every avenue has been exhausted. My successful career is gone, but my mother always downplays it, acting like I just have a little headache when she knows that I am never not in pain. In contrast, she is constantly looking for a reason to see a new doctor. Every tiny twinge is the end of the world for her. So tonight we were set to go out for our first family dinner. We get to the lobby, everyone's dressed up, and it's decorated for Christmas, so I'm getting pictures. I finally asked my dad if he would like to take pictures of our family of 4, and as we're posing with our children in front, I see my mother go right up next to my dad and yell out, "Stop that, you need to fix your smile." Now, I honestly think she's talking to one of our boys, so since I can't see their faces, I add in by saying, "Okay, nice smiles, everyone." However, my mom interjects again. She looks at me and says, "No, you. Your smile is horrible. It looks awful." She then imitates me by taking her fingers, puts them on each side of her mouth, and pulls one up and one down while tilting her head. When she did this, I'm honestly baffled, as I really am genuinely smiling. I realize that my smile probably doesn't extend up to my eyes like it used to, and this is the result of being in pain so much, but she's acting like I was doing a goofy face. I go to reset, and she once again yells out, "Stop making that face." Now at this point, I'm angry. I leave the pose, I get the phone from my dad, I pick up my purse, and I start walking towards the restaurant, but apparently she's not done. She then hurries after me, and continues to tell me how I need to look at the photos to see how awful my smile was. Well, I did look, and it wasn't that bad. There was nothing wrong with the picture. The fact that she kept going on and on, justifying her actions, it was honestly to the point where I was finally just done. So I stopped walking. I told my husband I'm sorry, but I'm going back to the room, and that he and the kids can go to dinner without me. I was on fire with anger, which then gave way to tears as soon as I was out of her presence. So in her mind, and maybe everyone else's, I'm the one who ruined dinner, and maybe I did. I should be able to just let her words roll off of me, but I feel like such a shell of my former self after everything I've lost to this devouring pain. I mean, now I can't even smile correctly. However, I'm pretty sure I'm being the jerk to the people I love the most, and that makes the whole thing a lot worse. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I am still deeply hurt. No, your mom sounds obnoxious. First and foremost, if I was in your shoes, I would never go on vacation with her ever again. Like from this point on, I would literally start to distance myself completely and be like, okay, I'm gonna see you like twice a year if that. Because this behavior is so toxic. She was saying that to you on purpose, by the way. I hope you know that, because that really is what I'm picking up here. Like she wanted you to make sure that you knew the one thing that you have in your life to express any kind of joy still looks stupid in her eyes. And for the record, I'm sure your smile looked completely fine. I'm sure there was nothing wrong with it, and she was just being a massive jerk. So no, you didn't ruin anything, and if she really has something to say to you about this situation, then I would personally be completely okay with like letting her know exactly what's up, because from the sounds of it, she's gotten away with this for far too long. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be standing up for myself much sooner than later. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my dog for my fiance's allergic daughter after they move in, despite the fact that my fiance knew I had a dog? Because right now I feel incredibly frustrated, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have have a golden retriever by the name of Max. He's been with me for 7 years, and he is more than a pet. He is my family. My fiance, who we will call Tim, recently moved in with his 9-year-old daughter, who we will call Emily. Now, Emily is severely allergic to dogs. Not the kind where she just takes Benadryl and she's fine, but she's the kind where she will break out into hives and have serious breathing issues. Now, here's the important fact of this story. Tim knew that I had Max from the start, and when we were dating, he swore it wouldn't be a problem because they didn't live with me. But now that they're moved in, it is a constant issue. Emily's allergy flares up every time she's here, and now Tim is demanding that I rehome Max for her safety. Now, I've suggested every compromise I can think of. Keeping Max out of her room, constant deep cleaning, investing in air purifiers, even boarding Max part-time when Emily is over. But none of it is good enough. Tim says that I need to put Emily first and get rid of Max completely. He also made it clear that if I don't, he might need to rethink the wedding. Well, I told him flat out that I'm not rehoming Max. I love Tim and Emily, but Max is family, and I'm not dumping him like an old piece of furniture. Tim says I'm selfish and not ready to be a stepmom. His family's also piled on, saying that I'm prioritizing a dog over a child, and now I'm the villain of the week. My friends are split. Some of them agree with me, and others think I'm being heartless. So seriously, am I at fault in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I do not think you're the jerk at all, and the fact that Tim's trying to be like, you need to get rid of your dog like right now. That is insane. This literally should have been a deal breaker from the start. If he really knew that his daughter had this kind of allergy, he would not have even entertained having a relationship with you, which really leads me to believe that no, he had no idea. He is not nearly informed about Emily's healthcare, and he probably only got concerned about this as soon as Emily was like, oh yeah, I can't breathe. It's like, what are you doing? This is literally Tim's fault. And to make matters worse, he literally lied to the original poster, saying stuff like, oh, I would never make you get rid of Max. But here we are moving into the house, and he's like, oh yeah, you gotta get rid of Max. Like, this is all on Tim's shoulders in my opinion, and no one can tell me otherwise. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, but also you definitely are not the jerk, because the way Tim is acting, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My wife's toxic best friend is actively and currently trying to ruin my marriage, as she is now convincing my wife that I'm going to leave her for a younger woman. And despite the fact that we have a child together, and that I've uprooted my entire life to be with my wife, we are now experiencing friction and contention all over this stupid best friend. So right now, I feel very frustrated, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I have been together for 3 years, and we've been married for 1. We have a 1-year-old daughter, and we have all that we could ever ask for. We live a pretty calm and more introverted life, and my wife is especially introverted. Our relationship had kind of a slow start because we used to only be friends with benefits because our age difference used to bother her mentally. For reference, I'm a 23-year-old male, and my wife is 33 years old. But we love each other, and we have worked through a lot of judgment from other people. I am very happy and satisfied with my wife, and I don't need to go looking for other women or anything. Well, her best friend doesn't like me because I'm a younger guy, and she tries putting stuff in my wife's head. She's made some disrespectful comments towards me and has said stuff along the lines of, oh, he's just with you for money. Or even things like, oh, once he's done leeching off of you, he's going to find a younger woman and he's gonna dump you. Now, all of this is not true, obviously, and I know it affects my wife sometimes because her mood changes. But if I wasn't in love with her, I wouldn't have left my family and moved to another state with her and had a child with her. I've tried talking with her friend, but she just shrugs me off and calls me a dumb kid and says that I know nothing about the world. I've tried reassuring my wife, but I feel like I need to do more than just give her words. All I do is work. I spend my time with my family, and I occasionally go on motorcycle meets with a small group of buddies, but I definitely do not hang out with other women, or let alone even with female friends. So how can I show my wife that I would never hurt her, and that I truly want to be with her? She already has issues from past relationships, but I also do not want to overdo it and make myself look suspicious over nothing. What should I do? Oh man, this lady is absolutely not your wife's friend. She's literally trying to tear apart your marriage over something that isn't happening. Like, that is crazy to me, and there is literally no good excuse for that. And it's even worse because it's somehow getting through to your wife. Like, seriously, let's think about this for a second. What kind of friend would do this to their friend and be like, oh yeah, he's gonna cheat on you. You need to dump him now while you still have the chance. It's like, seriously, this is so messed up, it's not even funny. Because your rationale is correct. You guys have been together for 3 years, you've been married for 1 year, you have a 1-year-old daughter with this lady. Like, I think it's pretty clear that you're committed to her and you're not gonna just dump her to the curb and be like, okay, time to find somebody else. So if I was in your situation, I would be talking to my wife and be like, listen, this lady is crazy. This lady is not your best friend and she's trying to tear apart our marriage. Because in all actuality, that's exactly what she's doing. doing, and you do not deserve that kind of treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled manager demands that I move faster at a family-run business, stating that as a dish runner, I need to move plates faster and more efficiently, stacking plates and cups higher than I could possibly go. So I decided to maliciously comply, resulting in well over $100 worth of damage. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I got my first job when I was 16 years old, and this was a dodgy family-run business that paid me less than minimum wage. But while I was there was one manager who was the definition of a middle-aged woman who absolutely hated their younger female coworkers. Let's call her Smudge for the sake of the story, and I call her that because her mascara application was dreadful. Smudge was one of those people who gave you the most harsh, vicious critiques, but all with a massive smile on her face. She wrote the book on passive aggressiveness, and for some reason, she was constantly on my case, even though I would go above and beyond in my role for this awful company. Anyways, during this one shift, there was a huge rush, and I had to run around collecting dirty dishes, and the trays were so flimsy that it felt like I was piling stuff on cling film, so I couldn't stack as much as Smudge wanted me to, even though I was still way over stacking dishes. She would say to me, "You need to be way more efficient and stack the cups and the plates way more than this. This is just lazy." She then pointed to my tray that was about to give way in my tiny 16-year-old girl arms. So at that moment, I said to myself, fine, no problem. I got a new clean tray and I went to the downstairs section, which was still heaving with dishes, even though I'd made several trips already. But you know what? Orders are orders. I then piled 2 stacks of 10 ceramic plates, 4 thick round mugs, 4 tall slender mugs, and 7 tiny espresso mugs. The tray honestly felt like it was going to break, but efficiency is key, so I used all my strength to lift it up and began walking up the stairs. Well, wouldn't you guess it, I trip on a wet wipe and I couldn't hold the weight of the tray, so all those dishes fell and the damage was massive. 10 plates got smashed and 7 mugs got chipped. But of course, I needed to keep pushing up the stairs because I needed to be efficient. I eventually told Smudge what happened and she finally panics. She says to me, "Why did you stack that many?" But I just looked at her and I said, "I was doing what you said." Well, fast forward and the next day there was a meeting about not pushing past your limits. And honestly, I'm just glad I was able to get back at Smudge because her attitude was awful to deal with. That really is a funny way to get back at somebody, especially a coworker who's being passive aggressive. And my God, I definitely know who you're talking about here. They say these awful things, but they hide it behind this fake huge smile, as if they're finding delight in saying these terrible things to you. Those are the worst coworkers because they try to hide behind their niceness, as if they're not being a complete jerk the entire time. So good for you for firing right back at this lady, because in my opinion, her attitude was completely unacceptable. My partner got me a frying pan for my birthday, claiming that we can now use this to cook food together, even though I'm the only one in the house that cooks anything at any point. But now my partner's calling me entitled and spoiled for being upset about getting a frying pan as a present. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So today is my birthday, and I really had a great day until I got home. My partner of 5 years who I live with called me up and told me that he was coming home and he was making steak, but he wanted to pick up a stainless steel pan first because I know he's wanted to get one for a while. It's important to know that he always ties up my birthday and anniversary present together, as they are just a few days apart. So when I arrived home after him, he had a card, flowers, and the frying pan as my gift sitting on the dinner table. Now, the flowers are lovely and I love the nice birthday card, but the pan on the other hand, you know, the one in which he ran out and picked up before arriving home, honestly really upset me. I do the majority of the cooking and cleaning in our relationship, and this is because I'm a full-time student with a stipend, so I am home a lot more than he is, which is fine, but that pan just represents more work for me. I've been telling him for a couple of years now that I would love a necklace or something pretty. Well, I did a poor job of hiding my disappointment, and I laughed at the pan initially because I truly thought that he was joking about it. Over dinner, he dug into me about it, saying that I was entitled and spoiled for being upset about the pan, when meanwhile, I had told him about some things I would have loved. One of them was kitchen related, but it was a frivolous want and not a need like a pan. Furthermore, it feels like he wanted the pan more than me. He tried to frame it as a way that we could cook together more, or that it's somehow a great practical gift that I can get daily use out of. The gifts that I get him have been consistently meaningful, personalized, and special just for him, and I feel it's important to note that I had to talk him down from getting himself a new GPU for his computer and giving me his old GPU as a birthday gift. He thinks that I'm ungrateful, and I just spent my birthday evening crying and just wanting to to run away. But I just cannot get across to him why the pan is just a representation of more work for me. Meanwhile, we are going to Singapore for his birthday. I feel hurt, I feel unheard, and wound up apologizing because I wanted it to stop, and he made me feel horrible for all of this. So truly, can anyone please provide me with some extra help as to how I can tell him that this has upset me? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I cannot believe that your partner literally gave you a frying pan for your birthday. I'm sorry, but that is not a gift. That's something that he wanted, and he's like, oh look, we can cook stuff together. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This was clearly something he wanted, and he's using you as an excuse. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I'd be pissed off as well, because this, in my opinion, can hardly even be called a gift in the first place. I am truly sick and tired of dealing with customers who don't know how to read the menu from our restaurant, but then proceed to complain about the food as soon as they get it, because at this point, I truly am done with this kind of behavior. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, I work in a franchise Japanese ramen restaurant, and I came to take care of a table that had an issue. The customer took a bite of their food and said that she didn't like it, and clearly mentioned that she did not want it anymore. I asked her why she didn't like it, and she said she didn't like the legs. I explained the whole soft-shell crab is 100% edible, and it's served Japanese style. I mentioned to her that it would not be removed from the bill, as the menu states exactly what the menu item is. I suggested to her that she can order another appetizer, which would be added to the bill, but she refuses. She then says that she doesn't want the bun, so I threw it away, which by the way is our protocol. Well, after checking in with them again, she then says she wants the bun again because it will be on the bill. But I told her that I threw it away because you didn't want it. She then requests another manager, and I told her I'm the only shift manager on duty at this time. She then requested my name, so I gave it to her. She became aggravated from that point on, and I offered to remake the bun for her, to which she requested it for takeout, and I said yes. I suggested that we can package the soft shell crab separately from the bun, and she agreed. So I bring the takeout to the table, and she proceeds to change her mind again, and tells me that she's going to have it for here now. She puts it on the plate, and she eats the bun, and kept the soft shell crab separate, and she stated so I could expect it. She then requests us to cut off the legs for her, and I asked the kitchen, and they said yes. I then come back to the table to explain we are willing to remove the legs for her, but she then looks at me with a dirty stare, and asks for the bill instead. We remade the bun and gave her 10% off instead. After that whole ordeal, I was slightly annoyed that she didn't even bother eating the soft shell crab for the remade dish, and only the bun considering the circumstances. I mean, I really don't understand people like this. The item that was ordered is called a soft shell crab bun. The description clearly states what the menu item is. So I'm honestly just so blown away by dealing with annoying customers like this, who clearly don't know how to read the menu, or even ask for their dish to be modified. Oh man, I really understand where the original poster is coming from, because when I worked in food service, I ran into this all the time. People literally don't read the menu, and then they're like, wait a second, I don't like this. And it's like, what are you talking about? There's literally a detailed description. What part of soft shell crab bun do you not understand? You take a soft shell crab, you put it in a bun, and then bam, you've got the item. Like, that really is not that hard. But instead, she decides to make a big fuss about it and be like, oh, I want a manager, and then goes on this useless wild goose chase just to make everybody's life miserable. So yeah, I really feel for the original poster here, because customers who act this way are truly obnoxious. My boyfriend canceled an international trip that we had scheduled so that he could go to a wedding at the last second, and now as a result, I've decided to break up with my boyfriend because I feel this has ruined our relationship. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few weeks ago, my boyfriend tells me he wants to take me on a nice international vacation. To preface this, we have been dating for a few months now, and we've been on one small trip ever since we started dating. Now, when he told me about this trip he wanted to take, I said yes, and I was excited. I took off of work, I put in my PTO, we booked the hotel, and I had the flights lined up. Now, we talked about the trip a lot, as it was supposed to be only a few weeks from now. Well, a few days ago, he tells me I will never believe what he got in the mail. Of course, my mind goes in 1 million directions, but before I can say anything, he blurts out and tells me that he got an invite to his friend's wedding. Apparently, it didn't come in the mail until just now, and it is the same weekend as our vacation. And he is so bummed out because he was looking forward to the trip. He literally just flat out told me the trip is off. No mature conversation was held, and he said it as fast as he could to just tell me. Now, of course, I was hurt by this, and honestly, I was in shock. It happened so fast. He showed me the invite, and the second I looked at it, I said to him, I've seen this invitation in your house for a month. He then doubled down and said he just got it, even though I have 100% seen this invite in his kitchen before. And honestly, who gets a wedding invite only weeks in advance? My feelings were hurt. He said we could rebook it if I wanted to, but I didn't have a desire. Instead of sitting me down and talking through it, he just told me in one sentence that he's bummed because he can't make it anymore because he he couldn't miss his frat brother's wedding. I told him, of course, mistakes happen, and I 100% understand not being able to miss a wedding like that, nor would I want him to. But the way he went about it was shady and really dismissive of how I felt. So I canceled my PTO, I canceled the hotel that I booked, and I felt pretty kicked to the curb. I could tell he wanted to gloss over it when I called out that I had seen the invite before, and he got pretty upset about that. I then told him a few days later to let the dust settle and all that I just feel pretty bummed out about all of this. But he still did not get why it hurt my feelings and asked me, okay, well, what's so wrong in pushing the trip back a few months? I then told him we should no longer see each other because we have very different ways in which we communicate and go about handling a disagreement. Now, of course, he was upset with me and thinks I'm crazy, but I have to protect my peace and my heart. So has anyone here experienced something like this before? Or have any of you been in the boat of feeling this way? I'm honestly so heartbroken that I now don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, you have every reason to be upset about this. Your boyfriend not only hyped up an international trip, but he got you all excited for it, only to then cancel it as if you have no say in the matter. You spent all this money booking a flight, booking hotels, as well as putting time in off of work. So for him to be like, oh yeah, we're not doing that anymore, sorry, I'm going to a wedding instead. Like, what is going on? That's not okay. You can't just do that suddenly. That's not fair for the original poster at all. And if you ask me, I bet he did know about this wedding, but he probably forgot about it and now he's scrambling to figure things out. And I also just love the way he tried to like spin this in a different way, where he's trying to be like, oh yeah, we're just pushing the trip back, what's the problem? But it's like, nope, that's not what happened. You said you wanted to cancel the trip altogether. This was not a conversation about pushing the trip back. This was you canceling so you could go to your friend's wedding, which by the way, you could have done both, but instead you lost your girlfriend. So no, I don't blame you for a second for being mad about this, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for turning down $2,000 from my father after he basically offered it to me so that I would change the date of my wedding? Because right now I'm convinced that none of my family members will show up due to their religious reasons. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I have been together for 5 years and engaged for 3. We set a wedding date, but we had to postpone due to other financial responsibilities. And we now have it set for June of 2025. We had a difficult time finding a venue, so the second we did, we made a deposit and set the date in stone. And the date we picked is the biggest issue with my family. So for context, my family is extremely religious. I grew up in the religion, and the second I turned 18, I left it. I live in the same town as my family, and I've not wanted to cut all ties with them, so I try to be as respectful of their beliefs as I can. They're against things like all jewelry, even wedding bands and strapless dresses, and anything immodest and so on. Dancing, music, and alcohol are also evil to them. Basically, all aspects of a wedding reception. I have even had emotional moments knowing that I will never have a father-daughter dance because my dad is so against it. Anyways, due to our schedule and many of our guests' schedule, our wedding will be on a Saturday, which is my family's religious day. I've also paid the venue to reserve Sunday for cleanup so that people can return to work by Monday. Well, I've gotten grief about this from all of my family, including my sisters, because they feel like this is breaking their religious day. This has been very irritating, and one sister has been manipulative about it, but I got through it and thought they have accepted it. Well, that was not at all the case. I will also point out that our wedding is entirely on my fiance and I financially, and it is possible but definitely a strain. I got the invitations made and sent, and I received a text from my father. He asked me if there's any way he could convince me to change the date to Sunday. I said to him, I'm sorry, but no. To which he responded by saying, even for $2,000? Now, I took this extremely offensively at first, like he was bribing me to change my wedding date, that he is able and willing to help financially, but only if it aligns with him. After cooling down, I gave a very diplomatic response, telling him that I've already paid for the venue, and this would not be possible. I also explained that I understand my family's beliefs, and I know that they will not be able to help set up or anything like that, and will be there for the ceremony as I expect them to leave before the reception. I also told him that he could give a financial gift at any time for our wedding or the honeymoon on the fund that I set up. Quite honestly, I do not want any of my family at the reception because they will be uncomfortable and judging everyone the entire time. So am I the jerk for turning down the $2,000? Because seriously, this would help immensely. Should my family be welcome at my reception, or should I just disinvite them altogether? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I don't blame you for turning down the money, but also you absolutely should welcome your family no matter what. Like for me, I would absolutely be like, okay, here's an invitation. I want you to be there. If you can't be there for religious reasons, then fine, I understand. But at least you sent out the invitation and you can be the bigger person. What they choose to do from there on is up to them. But honestly, I'm so glad you turned down the $2,000 because in my mind, that absolutely sounded like a bribe. These people wouldn't help with your wedding, but instead was like, okay, for $2,000, change the date and then we'll go. And it's like, wait a second, that is so unfair to me. So to that extent, I completely understand where you're coming from. This behavior is absolutely atrocious and I don't blame you for being upset. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for turning your dad down, because the way he's acting, in my opinion, as well as the rest of your family, is honestly incredibly entitled. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not putting a Christmas tree up this year? All because it's a painful reminder that my grandmother just passed away. Because right now, my family is on my case, saying that my kids deserve to have a tree, and that because I'm choosing not to have one, I'm a horrible and worthless mother. Because right now, I feel very hurt and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm sure this sounds bad, but please let me explain. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I recently just lost my grandmother only a few days before Thanksgiving. I have been dealing with this awful grief ever since then, barely able to get out of bed and sobbing myself to sleep. My grandmother had practically raised me my entire life, working hard to provide me with a good life and teaching me to be a strong woman who could survive this harsh world. Now, I have 2 children who are 5 years old, and my boyfriend, who we will call Victor, is their father. Ever since she passed away, Victor's been trying his absolute best to comfort me. He has thankfully never lost someone, so he's unsure of how to properly do it. He's also been decorating the house for me, as Christmas is his favorite holiday. Now, I appreciate it a lot, I really do, and I feel selfish that I cannot show it to him. Our children have also been asking for a Christmas tree so that my grandmother can help them decorate it. They don't understand that she's gone, and it hurts to explain to them that she sadly is not coming this Christmas. And you know what? I simply can't do it. It hurts too much to get our tree and decorate it all without her. It seriously just feels wrong. I've expressed this to Victor, and he understands that I just can't do it this year, but my family thinks that's a big issue. I made the mistake of letting my sister watch my children when Victor had to work and I couldn't get up, because when she had asked them where the tree was, they said that mommy doesn't want to have a tree because grandma isn't coming. Now, I do not blame my children in the slightest for this. They are just kids who don't understand, but now I'm being bothered endlessly and basically bullied by my own family, who claim that I'm a horrible and worthless mother for not getting my kids a Christmas tree. I've tried to explain to all of them why I can't do it, but they just say that it's a selfish reason not to. They basically said to me, "We don't care if you're grieving, it's about the kids, and you are ruining it for them. A real mother makes sacrifices for her kids no matter what." Now, Victor has been backing me up this entire time, and even his family as well. Victor also thinks it's stupid of them to even say that, saying that Christmas will happen whether there's a tree or not, but they all refuse to listen. I'm starting to really think that I'm an awful mom for denying my children a tree, but at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Oh man, first and foremost, I'm so sorry that you lost your grandma, because that really is awful. Like, you don't deserve that in the slightest. But truly, the way your family's acting about this, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. There is no reason they should be treating you this way. It is highly insensitive, and truly, it's like invading on your privacy. Because in my opinion, I think you're completely in the right for not having a Christmas tree up if you don't want one. Like, you literally just lost someone who was really important in your life, and the Christmas tree was something that she was very highly involved with. So it makes complete sense to me why you would be apprehensive about doing it this year. The original poster did go on to say that they are going to have a small Christmas tree, and that the children will be helping make an ornament in their grandmother's honor, which I think is fantastic. Like, that really is very cool. So even though your family was treating you like garbage, I really hope you're able to find some kind of solace this Christmas, because their behavior towards you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My toxic entitled father demands that I stay in his house and never move out, claiming that I'm not ready to be an adult and live on my own, despite the fact that I'm 20 years old. Because right now, I feel so frustrated that I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been struggling financially ever since I became an adult due to unstable jobs, unemployment, and random car repairs. I've lived with my parents since I was 15 years old, so they feel that they need to raise me again since my grandparents did it incorrectly. The problem is they are still treating me as if I'm a teenager that needs constant parental control and supervision, even though I'm 20 years old, and it's really messing with my mental health. When I was 19, I finally acquired a stable job and a car, so I tried to move into my friend's house. My mom was okay with it as long as I am happy and safe, but my dad absolutely freaked out. He told me I'm making a stupid decision and that I will mess the whole family and my future over if I do this. And overall, he was just trying his hardest to guilt trip me into thinking that I'm doing something wrong just by leaving. When I did pack up my most valuable stuff and leave, my dad begged me to come back home and to talk it out with him. He wanted me to work on the business he spent all his money on. I foolishly obliged, and when I came home, he spent 3 hours trying to talk me out of it, and I just listened to him patiently. Then, when it was finally my turn to speak, I tried to remind him that I am a legal adult, even if I don't look look like one, and I will be fine on my own. He wouldn't even let me get through 2 sentences before he interrupted me and started screaming. He said to me, "No, that's childish. You are foolish and childish. You are not an adult. Your frontal lobe isn't even fully developed. You can't make it on your own. This isn't the 1950s. And when he said this really made me feel like garbage. And I knew he planned on using that dialogue no matter what I tried to retort with. And neither of us were going to change our minds no matter what. Eventually, we made an agreement that I will pay a small amount of rent to my friends for a room in their house. But I would also spend half of my week at my parents' house and go back and forth from there. He used the business we started as an excuse to keep me there, always calling me and cutting my time short, demanding that I come home because there's work that needs to be done. I didn't want to ruin our relationship because he spent a lot of money getting it started, but it hasn't really gone anywhere even though I do work on it. Anyways, my original plan was to just slowly move all my stuff to my friend's house, and eventually I will fully move in with my friends. This was a few months back, and I knew he was being awful and manipulative, but I wasn't sure how else to deal with it. About a month and a half into this ordeal, someone crashed into my car and destroyed it, and because of this, I lost my job, meaning that I could no longer pay rent, and I was forced to move back in with my parents. When the insurance finally paid out, I accidentally bought a lemon of a car, and it bankrupted me with a bunch of random mechanical issues, and in the end, it left me stranded on the side of the road with a $500 tow yard fee that was paid by my mom because I already spent all my money from my new job on the last repair. Well, a few weeks ago, I bought an old running car from a family friend for about $250, and I spent all of my last paycheck getting the tires replaced and fixing the transmission problem that it had. Thankfully, my mechanic said that this car was in way better shape than the other two combined, so I shouldn't have to worry about unexpected future repairs eating my wallet up. I'm currently broke and in debt to my mom because she helped me pay for a new car and my repairs, not to mention the tow yard and literally everything. I will be able to pay her off with my next paycheck, but it will eat up about half of it. They found a house they like that's closer to my job, which is about 15 minutes away instead of 45 minutes away, and since they applied to rent it and I didn't want to leave them in the mud, I agreed to help them rent it and send my pay stubs. Now, I think I might have made a mistake, but I honestly just don't know what else I'm supposed to do. My parents expect me to live with them until I finish school, and I just don't want that. My dad is delusional, and he thinks I need to be protected and that I'm immediately going to become homeless or kidnapped or whatever if I move out. So he expects me to live with them until I finish school. But I hate living with my parents because even though they look out for me and they feed me and always save me when I have to pay for something, my dad has an extremely toxic and clingy personality, and I'm not happy having to deal with him every single day. He's always insulting and demeaning my hobbies and acting like I'm wasting my time when I'm being creative and working on my own personal projects. Whenever he comes home from work and I'm in my room, he calls my cell phone and acts like I'm doing something wrong by having alone time. And it's like, God forbid I'm doing art instead of being in the living room, rewatching some stupid show with him, or just doing chores. He's always making my dating life his business and trying to give his advice or input when I just don't want it. He will always ask if every girl I go on a date with is my girlfriend now, and I think it's really frustrating and uncomfortable how he forces me to label what I'm doing, as well as tell him what I'm up to all the time. Every time I'm out of the house outside of my work hours, he just has to call me and ask me what I'm doing, and if I don't answer the phone, he gets really pissed off when I get home and tells me how worried he was and how awful it was of me not to tell him, even though I do it because I'm trying to prove the point that I'm independent and that I will just call them if it's an emergency. I know I still look like a troubled teenager in his eyes, but I really am an adult, and I honestly hate being around him every single day because I hate how he treated me when I was 17, and I think our personalities just clash too much, and we really aren't compatible to live together without fighting for control and my own privacy. I know for a fact that I would have created and sold so much more art if it weren't for him always trying to shut my creativity down and getting mad at me for wasting my time doing personal projects instead of doing my chores or whatever. He is just overall very manipulative and clingy and controlling, and I feel as if I can't fully be myself and reach my full potential as long as I live with him because he always has to use his parental authority on me. I'm not okay with the way he continues to treat me like a child, and I just desperately want to live on my own without him constantly taking my spare time, as well as him getting in my business and having to listen to him throw an adult temper tantrum at least once a week. I'm just trying to figure out how to get my own place without his interference. I already have a few friends who would be down for me to move in with them, and at this point, I think I'm just gonna save up for my own rental and post my room on Facebook and Craigslist so I can move and find someone to take my place just so rent can get paid and they don't get evicted. Because right now, I seriously feel stuck and I don't know what to do. Wow, your dad sounds awful, and I don't blame you for wanting to move out. First and foremost, you definitely should have ignored him when he's like, oh, please come back to the house, let's talk about this. Because you've got it right, you literally are 20 years old, and you don't have to live with him if you don't want to. So it does suck how he kind of like brought you back into the house, even though you didn't want to be there. But honestly, at least you now know that you don't want to live with him. You feel like your progress as an adult has been completely stifled, and you know for a fact that you're just going to be miserable if you stay in his house. So truly, I hope you're able to get out of there and find some other place to live, because your dad sounds like an absolute nightmare to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not taking down a restaurant review that somehow really enraged the owners of the restaurant that I went to? Because right now there's a lot of friction in my friend group, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so a friend of mine of about 20 years invited me to join her for Thanksgiving dinner at a restaurant. I've always cooked myself, so I thought it might be a cool change of tradition. Out of 8 of us, only 2 of us ordered the traditional turkey dinner. The turkey was tender and juicy, and the bread and cranberries were great, but the rest was either watery, bland, or raw. Biting into raw stuffing is just gross. Now, I was disappointed, and I left a 3-star review, but in the review, I praised the staff with 5 stars for the excellent service and the wonderful ambiance that they provided, and then I described the food issues. 3 days later, my friend called me stating that the owners of the restaurant went through their reservations from Thanksgiving and called customers to find out whose party I was in. The owners then contacted my sister's friend, who for reference is the one that made the reservation, where they complained to her about my review, asking her to tell me to take the review down immediately. I couldn't believe the owners would call her rather than reply to my review, asking me to talk in some way. But I was also shocked to find my friend's sister took my dislike of the food so personally. Now, my friend's sister is angry at me, causing all kinds of friction. Had the restaurant owners reached out to me personally, I would have obliged and taken the review down, but they blindly called people who made reservations just to find me, instigating this drama in the first place. I don't know what they said to my friend's sister, but whatever it was, her sister is no longer speaking to me. What's even more confusing is figuring out what would prompt the owners to take the review so badly. They had a 4.7-star rating before I wrote my review, and they had the same rating even after my review, so it clearly wasn't damaging. In the review, I even mentioned how I'd be returning to try a different meal because the staff was exceptional, and that my bad experience with the food might have been a fluke. So truly, am I the jerk for not taking down the review? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, this is absolutely not your fault in the slightest, because seriously, what's wrong with the owners? First of all they had to do was contact you through the review. They could have been like, hey, I'm so sorry you didn't like your food, and then had some kind of like accommodation or something. Like that really would be the mature thing to do in this situation. But instead, they decide, oh, we're gonna call everybody and demand that you take it down. Because if that happened to me, I would be like, oh, you just went from a 3-star review to a 1-star review. Like, what's going on right now? That's so stupid that they did that. Like, they literally went on a witch hunt just to find you specifically. Is that what they do with everybody who gives a bad rating? Which, by the way, a 3-star rating isn't that bad. Like, sure, the food kind of sucked, but the staff harbored a good environment. Clearly, the original poster had every intention of coming back, but it's like, wow, now I'm definitely never coming back. So no, you're not the jerk for not taking down that review, because the way this restaurant responded to that, in my opinion, is absolutely ridiculous. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my niece at the last minute after my sister said that she had a work emergency? Because right now, I'm being called selfish for not dropping what I'm doing and taking care of her. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I work full-time and recently started taking evening classes to finish my degree. My schedule is packed, and I rely on my evenings to study or attend classes. My sister, who we will call Emily, has a 4-year-old daughter who we will call Lily. I love my niece, and I've babysat her many times when she's asked me in advance. But last week, Emily called me about an hour before my class, asking me if I could watch Lily for a few hours. She said that she and her husband both had work emergencies, but I told her I had an important class that evening, which included a review session for an upcoming exam. I apologized but said that I couldn't miss it and that she would need to figure something else out. Well, Emily ended up calling our mom, who was able to go over there and watch Lily, but now she's upset with me and says I was selfish for not helping out when she really needed it. She said that she would not have asked unless it was a real emergency. My mom also mentioned that I could have made it work since Emily has a lot on her plate with her job and being a mom. I feel bad for saying no, but I also feel like I have valid reasons. So am I the jerk for sticking to my plans instead of helping her out? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, this is so obvious it's not not even funny. But seriously, no, you are not the jerk here. Why should you have to drop what you're doing just to take care of your sister, who clearly could have asked your mom first instead of you? Like, that really is so stupid that anyone would get upset about this, because you have upcoming exams. You're a full-time student. You've got a lot on your plate. Just because you're not a mom doesn't mean that you're not also incredibly busy. And seriously, in my opinion, someone else's lack of planning is not your emergency. And sure, I get it. There's work stuff that she needs to take care of, but she's really trying to make this sound like this was some life or death situation. Like, if it really is that bad, then guess what? It looks like you're taking your kid with you to work. So no, of course you're not the jerk. You clearly could not accommodate her at the drop of a hat. And the fact that she would expect that out of you, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my boyfriend's brother stay with us after we get married? Because right now, I'm considering dumping my boyfriend, as this really has become a hot topic of discussion. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years, and we're planning to get married in 2 to 3 years. His family lives overseas, and he's been independent since a very young age. Future plans have been coming up, including his wish for his 15-year-old brother to move here in about 2 to 3 years. He wants him to finish up high school and attend college while living with him. Now, we currently live separate and decided not to move in until marriage, and our relationship overall has been respectful and communicative, even though the last year has been rocky, primarily due to family-related issues. My issue is that if we're planning to get married in 2 to 3 years, and his brother comes to live with him, then that would mean that our married life would start off with 3 people in the family. I have told him that if his brother is coming here to finish high school and not be an adult yet, then he can stay with us. While this would make me somewhat uncomfortable to start my marriage and a house with my husband and his brother, I understand that his teenage brother would not be able to live by himself. However, my boyfriend is persistent on having his brother stay with him even after he starts college and finishes college. Now, to give a bit of context, I have spent time with his family to get to know them. His brother looks up to my boyfriend a lot. He has love and respect for him and would do almost anything that my boyfriend tells him to do. However, his attitude towards me is not the same. He often is very disrespectful towards me, calling me names jokingly, or even treats me like I'm not better than anyone in his family. But his family just laughs it off, saying that he's just being a teenager. Now, like I mentioned earlier, while I don't have any siblings, my cousins are the closest to me, and some are around the same age as my boyfriend's brother, and they have never been rude to my boyfriend. If there was a time where they have, I've made it clear that it was not okay. Therefore, I expect the same respect from my boyfriend. I suggested that his brother can stay with us until he's about 18 years old. However, after he turns 18, he would have to move out, and this would also be when he goes to college after high school. Furthermore, if my boyfriend is worried about his brother, then we can have him live next door, just as long as it's not under the same roof and I get my own privacy in my own home. However, my boyfriend did not like this idea. We had a lot of arguments about this, and my boyfriend would not budge from this decision. At this point, I've told him that if after we get married, I cannot spend private time with my husband, then I would not be okay with continuing this relationship. My boyfriend then accused me of trying to keep his family away from him. He went as far as to tell me that because I'm an only child, I never understood the value of family, and now I'm just upset. I feel disrespected, I'm hurt, and I'm heartbroken. I have thought about all of this for a while, and I've decided that if my boyfriend and I are not on the same page about this, it would be best to break up and go our separate ways. And to this, my boyfriend accused me of giving him an ultimatum. So truly, am I the jerk here for not wanting his brother to move in with us? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, I completely agree with the original poster here, because what the boyfriend's asking, in my opinion, is very intrusive. For starters, the teenage brother is an absolute piece of garbage. He treats you poorly, and everyone just kind of laughs it off. And it's like, no, this is not some normal teenage behavior, because clearly it can be corrected with the original poster's family, so why can't it be corrected with this kid? And I completely understand her rationale too. She would literally be starting out her marriage with another person in the house. And I don't know about you, but that sounds obnoxious to deal with. So no, you're not the jerk for making this kind of boundary known, because in my opinion, what's being asked of you is absolutely unacceptable. My boyfriend got really angry with me and my friends at a dinner celebrating my graduation, claiming that I'm not actually that smart and that I only got as far as I did because I'm privileged. So now I feel like my relationship with him is falling apart, because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I've completed my last final for my postgraduate school, and I decided to go out with some friends, and my boyfriend came along with me. He was relatively quiet, but he is not usually talkative with my friends, which is never a problem. But eventually, he started behaving strangely. I asked my friend to take a picture of me and him, and he refused. I asked if he could just take one for memory's sake, and he again said no. And we're talking, he was acting annoyed, and he was really pouty pouting. So I just dropped it and said okay. Now keep in mind, my boyfriend doesn't have a college degree, which I never cared about as it doesn't bother me. His family wasn't in a great financial situation, so he had to sacrifice a lot, which I completely understand. When we got dessert, my friends got a candle and asked the waiter to sing happy birthday as a joke. You know, just us having some silly fun. I blew out the candle and tried to feed the first bite to my boyfriend, and he said he didn't want it and that he's not hungry. And since I didn't want to push it, I just ate it myself. When we got in his car, I said that he smelled nice and that he looked so handsome. And then I tried to kiss him and he told me to stop. Because we were alone, I asked him why he was upset with me, and he just started ranting and raving. He said me and my friends are so annoying. We're apparently out of touch with reality, stating that we're spoiled and brainless, and all we care about is dinners and makeup and superficial stuff, and we're so stupid for ordering cake and getting a candle. I was like, okay, where's this even coming from? We've been together for a year and he's never seemed to have any issue with my personality before, but he said he just realized it right then and there. Then he continued ranting and saying I'm not actually that smart. I'm just privileged and only successful because I had a good upbringing and other people didn't have the same opportunities. And sure, I know he's technically right, but it just feels awful to be told all of it when I was just celebrating. I know he's felt insecure about himself in the past, but I always reassured him that I find him really intelligent and mature and respectable, even if he doesn't have a degree. I wouldn't even be with him if I didn't think he was smart or if I didn't respect him. We got back to our apartment and he just sulked around and refused to talk to me. And even now, he's still not talking to me. So now I feel like I'm at an impasse because right now I don't know what to do. Oh wow, your boyfriend is completely out of line here. He basically just said out loud that he doesn't like your personality and that he thinks you're not smart and that you're just privileged. And it's like, whoa buddy, what are we talking about here? This is such a leap in judgment, it's not even funny. Like, his attitude is completely off and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Because clearly your boyfriend is either jealous or incredibly toxic towards you. And in my opinion, you can do way better than what he's offering. Am I the jerk for asking my roommate to not use our living space as her office when she works from home? Because right now it's disrupting my entire life, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So ever since lockdown, my housemate and I have worked from home at least a couple times a week, and our living room, dining room, and kitchen are all an open plan. Now I have a desk in my bedroom, but she doesn't have one in hers. So whenever she works from home, she turns the dining room table into her office and I'm working from my bedroom. And there are a few things worth pointing out here. By her own admission, she is very loud. She plays loud music, works through lunch, and she is a workaholic who will regularly work well into the evening. She also beats her keyboard into so much submission that you can hear it from the other side of the apartment. I'm very conscious that too much working from home isn't good for my mental health, so I really try to up my office attendance. All the same, when I'm home, I feel like my use of our shared living space isn't being respected. When we're both here during a workday, I feel trapped in my bedroom, unable to take breaks in the living room and just relax. And then in the evening, I can't relax while she's using the space, even if she doesn't play music or take calls. I've called her up on this and said that I'd like the living space to be work-free from 5 o'clock p.m. all the way until nighttime, stating that if she needs to work late, she needs to go to the office. I've also asked for us to avoid working from home at the same time so I can use the living space when I'm here. I mean, after all, I shouldn't be disadvantaged for being the one with a desk in my room, but she thinks that I'm being too demanding and that she has a right to do what she's doing. She thinks that so long as she isn't taking calls or playing music, she can work from the living space as late as she wants. But I strongly disagree. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Am I being too demanding, or is she just being too entitled? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, I completely agree with the original poster because their roommate is being super entitled right now. Like, seriously, what's their problem? Sure, they have every right to do that, but it's clearly like disrupting the space. And I'm pretty sure if you match fire with fire in this situation, she's gonna hate you and want to move out or something like that. Because you very easily could still go in the living room and make a lot of noise while she's doing her thing. And if she were to complain, you could be like, well, I live here too, I can do whatever I want. So truly, the fact that your roommate's acting like that, in my opinion, is super annoying. And I don't blame you for getting frustrated in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.